January 2nd, 2020, second day of the new year, and of course life already decided to bully poor Li Huayang. His boiler quit on him like an unpaid intern. Steam hissed from the pipes like the apartment itself was mocking him. Our boy stood there in his blue t-shirt, frowning, as if frowning could fix the pipes. Spoiler, it couldn't. Then came the neighborhood fossil, slippers slapping the floor like war drums. This old man, armed with a broom and a bad attitude, screamed about kids these days wasting heat. Yes, Grandpa Scrooge really thought socks and duct tape could replace central heating. The residents peeked out from their doors, probably wondering if they should clap or throw him out the window. Huayang knew if he told Broom Grandpa about the boiler, he'd get blamed, charged double rent, and probably scolded for breathing too hard. He even fantasized about burying the old man in the yard, then remembered corpses don't exactly make great fertilizer. The wind whistled through his sorry excuse for a room, cobwebs mocking him from the corners. He hugged himself like a rejected snowman and sneezed. Yep, this home felt more like a freezer with furniture. And because he was weak to manipulation, the old man sealed the windows brainwashing worked. So, off he went to buy film for the windows, shivering like a penguin who lost custody of his ice block. At 9 p.m. our hero shuffled into a store. Hoodie up, he asked a clerk where the film was. She smiled too brightly, probably hiding the urge to laugh at this frostbitten loser. She pointed him to aisle F. He thought the store had everything. Except, central heating. Meanwhile, some brat swung a wrench like it was Thor's hammer, begging his dad to buy it. Dad in a blue shirt shot him down with the timeless parent excuse. Why do you need it? Kid's reason? It has a comfortable handle. Yeah, future psychopath right there. Anyway, our tragic hero reflected on his oh-so-meaningful name, Li Huayang, which allegedly meant peaceful achievement. Irony alert, his life had been anything but. Abandoned, dumped in a shelter, beaten up by kids in white shirts who probably thought they were angels. Little Li fought back because if life hands you trauma, you might as well return it with interest. Growing up, he decided money equals power. Sadly, his grades were garbage, his wallet was emptier than his fridge, and all he could get was dead-end jobs. Cue the courier gig, delivering packages with the excitement of a zombie mailman. Every coin he earned just reminded him how worthless his time was. Then came the machete. He picked one up in the store like a man caressing his soulmate. The girl glanced at the man with the cart, asking quietly what could make someone smile while holding a machete. The man admitted he didn't know and had no intention of getting close. Li Huayang's grin reflected sharply in the blade, stirring memories he had long tried to forget. He remembered the days when his hard work couldn't earn even 10,000 won, when selling himself into slavery still wouldn't be enough, and when orphans were barred from military service. It was that frustration that drove him into the life of a mercenary. He had joined the first squad, a band of orphans and societal cast-offs, those who had nothing left to lose. For people like him, the squad offered a bed, clothes, and enough money to survive. Li Huayang had learned to be grateful, despite the blood and chaos. Together, they cleared pirates from the seas, decapitated terrorists on land, and occasionally fought in international wars to set their own price. The salesgirl touched the machete carefully, remarking that it was worth 240,000 won. She questioned what he intended to do with it, suggesting it was better suited for a collection than for logging or camping. She offered to show more practical alternatives, but Li Huayang waved it off. It suited him. He had been thinking about a new machete for some time. His old one was blunt. He pointed at the film behind the salesgirl, asking for 10 meters. She began slicing it with a stationary knife, her cuts jagged and uneven. Li Huayang's irritation was visible. The blade was so dull she couldn't even cut straight. He instructed her to step back. She looked up, questioning silently. With a swing of the machete, he cut through the film in a clean, precise line. The girl stared in disbelief at the neat cut. Li Huayang turned at the commotion behind him. A crowd had gathered, murmuring about something or someone startlingly real. Requests for pictures filled the air, and shadows stretched long across the pavement. Then came a movement that froze him. A small goblin, knife in hand, lunged at the fleeing crowd. One man looked back, shock etched across his face, just in time to meet the creature's vicious smile. The goblin struck swiftly, and blood erupted from the man's body. He crumpled to the ground dead, while the goblin crouched over him, surveying its work. People screamed, blood flew, and our boy realized life had upgraded from broken boiler to actual monster invasion. The goblin lunged at him. Reflexively, Hua Young swung the machete. Slash! One goblin, minus a head. Congratulations, kid. You're now promoted to mercenary hero. The store floor turned into a gore festival. Blood, bodies, trash everywhere. Goblins grinned like psychotic clowns. A woman shielded her daughter, trembling. Hua Young cut through one like a butcher chopping cucumbers, but muttered that his machete was more of a club than a blade. Dude was mid-apocalypse and still critiquing his weapon. Then more goblins flooded in. Because of course they did. He wasn't fighting a few monsters, he was fighting the entire DLC expansion pack. Other survivors scrambled to help. One guy with an axe was trying to look cool. Another with blonde hair grabbed a nail gun like he was starring in Home Alone, Apocalypse Edition. Some bespectacled wimp prayed to God. Wrong move. Hua Young roasted him. Prayer won't save you. Get up or die. Savage but fair. Even 4 random guys formed a squad. Axe guy, nail gun guy, glasses guy, and chainsaw guy. Together they tried to survive, hacking goblins while bathing in green blood. Glasses boy, to his own surprise, chainsawed a goblin in half. Hua Young even complimented him. Probably the first and last compliment that nerd would ever receive. Then came the grand reveal. A glowing vortex, spewing monsters non-stop. Destroy it! Hua Young barked like he actually had a plan. Of course he didn't. 2 more goblins jumped out, and everyone knew this wasn't just a broken boiler day anymore. Hua Young peeked from behind the shelf like a paranoid raccoon, and realized the goblins just kept pouring out. The spatial rift looked like something out of a low-budget sci-fi movie, except it was vomiting actual monsters instead of special effects. Any scientist would have dropped their PhD and gone home crying. A group of goblins were munching on a woman's corpse like it was a buffet. Hua Young, because he thinks he's Mr. Tactical Genius, started counting down from 5 to 1. Glasses boy, still clutching his chainsaw like it was a teddy bear, asked, "What are you talking about?" Hua Young explained with the confidence of a man who'd just discovered multiplication. 10 goblins per wave, 10 minutes between each. Now we've got 26. Translation, math says you're all screwed. And even though he understood the waves, he had no idea how to stop them. The store was filled with bad weapons. Axes, crowbars, chainsaws, all great if you wanted to cosplay as a lumberjack but terrible against an army of green psychos. One slip, and you'd be on the goblin dinner menu. Our hero gritted his teeth, thinking if only he had a firearm, life would be easier. Right on cue, someone yelled fire, and a rocket launcher lit up the store like New Year's fireworks. Soldiers stormed in, yelling about being the counterterrorism task force of the Metropolitan Defense Command. Finally, professionals, or so they claimed. A tank even rolled in. Yes, a tank. In a shopping mall. Because apparently, the military's motto is, property damage first, questions later. Bullets shredded goblins, saving a man and his kid. The shop clerk crouched, covering her head, like that would protect her from becoming an accidental tank pancake. Hua Young exhaled, lowering his chainsaw. A goblin corpse dripped green goo in front of him. Glasses boy, now trying to act human again, awkwardly thanked him. Introduced himself as Kim Bo-on. Hua Young, too tired to care, brushed him off. He didn't like weaklings. Weak people were ballast, and he'd spent his mercenary career learning one thing: ballast sinks ships. But Bo-on wasn't the only problem. The soldiers weren't exactly Schwarzeneggers either. Their breathing was ragged, their stances sloppy. Hua Young sneered. Great. The professionals weren't any better than him. Goblins dodged their gunfire like acrobats. So what did he do? Walked up to a soldier, stuck his hand out, and demanded the machine gun. Told him his name and dropped the first squad bomb like it was supposed to mean something. The soldier blinked, confused, and before he could process, Hua Young just yoinked the weapon. Another soldier cursed him out, but Hua Young didn't care. He mowed down goblins like it was duck hunt in real life. The soldiers stared in shock. One muttered about him being from that first squad, the ruthless mercenaries people told campfire horror stories about. Meanwhile, Hua Young was blasting away with all the emotion of a man checking his emails. Then came the real punchline. A giant blue dialogue box popped up. Game restart. Hua Young froze. His head throbbed. As if surviving goblins, tanks, and mall chaos wasn't enough, Now reality was breaking the fourth wall. He didn't know what kind of game this was, but reload instead of load confused him. Honestly, same. Before he could process, a massive orc crawled out of the rift, roaring like a WWE wrestler. Bullets bounced off its skin like pebbles. Everyone panicked. One guy even jumped in swinging an axe like a man auditioning for a Viking LARP group. And here's the twist. The cowardly Kim Bo-on, yes, the same dude who was crying and praying earlier, suddenly went full pro. He slashed the orc's legs, dropping it like a sack of bricks, and calmly explained its weak spot like he'd been doing orc autopsies his whole life. Then he chopped its head clean off. Everyone gawked, especially Hua Young, who was mentally screaming, "Wasn't this clown trembling 10 minutes ago?" It didn't stop there. The brat who earlier begged his dad for a wrench? Now he was swinging it like Thor's hammer, smashing orcs with the confidence of a seasoned gladiator. The sweet store clerk who couldn't cut window film straight? She was spinning a chain around like she'd escaped from Cirque du Soleil, toppling monsters with dead eyes and perfect precision. Hua Young's brain almost short-circuited. People who were trembling nobodies minutes ago were suddenly pro-level fighters. Something was seriously broken here. The soldiers ordered a ceasefire, cheering like idiots. Survivors cried that their prayers had been answered. But Hua Young wasn't celebrating. He noticed the difference. Some people transformed, others didn't. Why? How? Before he could think more, another glowing blue dialogue box appeared. No training available. You may ask 3 questions about the game. Choose wisely. Great. A queue and a pop-up window in the middle of an orc invasion. Because what every traumatized mercenary really needs is an FAQ section. The box explained. This was a test system for humanity with video game features. Hwa Young called BS. The box simply repeated, "Choose wisely." The voice that spoke to Li Hua Young sounded like a woman's, and instantly annoyed him. Because nothing says epic apocalypse like Siri nagging you from a blue box. He realized brute force wouldn't solve this one. He didn't even have a body here, just floating text and a voice like a bad audiobook narrator. The box chirped that his status window was now available. Translation: he had just unlocked the worst RPG character sheet ever, the glowing words proudly displayed. Level 1. Li Hua Young. Endurance 1, Agility 1, Strength 1, Concentration 1, Mana 1, Bonus points 1, Achievements none, Skills none. Basically weaker than an asthmatic toddler. Hua Young chuckled nervously, because when life drops a cosmic joke in your lap, what else can you do? The voice went on about players all over the world and gates leading to dungeons, but Hua Young cut it off like a guy sick of tutorials. He asked if he really had to train and stop humanity from extinction. The box, clearly impressed, called him a fast learner, which was insulting, considering the bar was currently on the floor. Then he asked why Kim, the shop girl, and Glasses didn't get the same messages. Boom, error. The dialogue box turned red, screaming like a Windows 98 crash. It declared, Li Hua Young is the only non-regressed player. Translation: everyone else got sent back from the future with cheat codes, except him. He was stuck as the no DLC trial version. Great. He remembered screaming on battlefields, begging to take it all back, and apparently the universe heard him and said, "Nah, let's make you the tutorial boss instead." While he was processing that existential punchline, some random woman smacked his back and told him to go fight. He roasted her instantly. When monsters were in her face, she was trembling like a chihuahua, so maybe she should shut up. She blinked, terrified, which was fair. Then Kim strutted over, suddenly acting like they were best friends. He reintroduced himself and confessed he'd been looking for Hua Young all his life, crawling through dungeons just to meet him. Bro was cheesing like a fanboy at Comic-Con, claimed if Hua Young hadn't given him a chainsaw, he'd have been Monster Chow. Hua Young deadpan thought, wow, regression makes cowards into motivational speakers. Kim then dropped that every player in Korea knew his name, because apparently Hua Young was the guy who entered the last dungeon. News to him. He could barely keep track of what was happening, and now he had fanboys quoting his non-existent highlight reel. The shop assistant clutched her chest dramatically, saying it was an honor to fight beside him. The kid with the wrench gushed about how he'd never forget seeing Hwa Young flip off reporters before entering the dungeon. The group circled him like he was some washed-up rock star. Hua Young's brain screamed, "These clowns are regressed players, all of them." Kim begged him to share stories of the last dungeon. Hua Young opened his mouth, but the system rudely interrupted. Unique skill search complete. Result? Butterfly effect, level 1. A skill that gave him extra points whenever he did something different than his past self. Basically, life turned him into a cosmic speedrunner. He understood the butterfly metaphor well enough, flap once, and suddenly tornadoes, dead goblins, or Kim having a personality. Before he could enjoy the irony, orcs stormed through the rift. The regressors charged like they'd been training for this cutscene their whole lives. Hua Young calmly opened fire with his machine gun but noticed something odd. He was the only one who could see the monsters' names and levels glowing above their heads. Orc, level 2, it read. Very immersive, very annoying. Bullets pinged off the orc like spitballs, proving guns were decorative at best. The regressors, of course, knew exactly where to strike, aiming for weak points like it was second nature. The shop girl lassoed an orc's leg with her chain, Kim chopped another in the knees, and Glasses actually remembered he had a spine. Hua Young sighed, handed the useless gun back to a soldier and picked up a chainsaw. Regression really was cracked. These people got free cheat sheets, while he was still figuring out if the safety was on. Then his skill activated butterfly effect. You changed the future. +1 point. He blinked. Apparently just swapping weapons counted. Fine. He grabbed an axe. Butterfly effect. +1. He tossed it for a drill. Butterfly effect. +1. At this rate he could farm points by juggling hardware. An orc charged, and he flung the axe into its knee. The beast toppled. Hua Young rushed in, axe raised, and decapitated it clean. Butterfly effect. +1. He grinned. Finally, a system he could exploit. He asked Kim to remind him what he used to fight these monsters in their past lives. Kim replied that Hua Young used a chainsaw. That was all Hua Young needed. If he did anything differently from their so-called past, it altered the future. Kim then told Hua Young that at this point, he killed 3 orcs by himself. Hua Young asked how, and Kim smugly pointed at some buckets of solvent stacked on the shelf. Stuff for thinning paint, but hey, it also lights up like gasoline. Hua Young grinned. Oh, so pyromania was your big secret? He realized that in his other life, he must have doused the orcs in solvent and set them on fire. So this time, if he didn't use it, or maybe if he overused it, he'd twist the future. He picked up a bucket. Butterfly effect activated. +1 point. Like clockwork. The others, exhausted, went along with his plan, which was less plan and more arson with friends. They crippled orcs, he poured solvent on them and set the whole mess ablaze. The flames roared, goblins screamed, and the system rewarded him. Butterfly effect. +1 point. Level up. +3 extra points. Hua Young stood in the firelight like some goth pyromancer, convinced now, do the opposite of your past life, get free points. The system was basically begging him to troll fate. Then came the new achievement, Brave Newbie. Reward? Armor, level 1. Defense buff, proportional to strength. Sounds cool until his hands literally turned black. Looking down, he muttered, "The hell is this?" Cue jealous whining. A guy cursed that he thought he'd be the one to get that skill. The girl with the metal pipe frowned, muttering that it was a problem, because Hua Young supposedly used this skill in the past to crush the whole of Korea. Oh, lovely. Already infamous for future war crimes he hadn't even committed yet. Riff with purple energy opened up, announcing the dungeon details like a video game menu. Goblins, 11. Orcs, 8. Max players, 4. Difficulty, D. Hua Young looked at it and thought, oh, this whole system's goal is to wipe out humanity. Cute. Kill the monsters inside or they'd pour out and wreck everything. Only one way to deal with gates, exterminate every last creature. Difficulty D meant loot wouldn't be great, but he had a different plan, testing his new armor skill, because unlike the regressors who came with cheat codes, he needed raw, visible power. So he dumped all his extra points into strength, from 116, because if you're going to min-max, might as well become a walking sledgehammer. He stepped into the portal with Kim, Chainsaw Boy, and Pipe Girl trailing nervously behind. The dungeon smelled like death and bad game design. A goblin lunged from the shadows and bit Hua Young's arm. He didn't even flinch. Armor activated. His blackened hand clamped onto the goblin's skull, squeezed, and pop. Goblin brains everywhere. Butterfly effect, +1 point. The others froze. Pipe Girl stammered, "That's impossible." Chainsaw Boy cursed. Kim gawked like he was watching his celebrity crush in person. Hua Young's strength stat was now 16, and he'd proved it by crushing a monster's head like a grape. Kim crept closer, still drooling admiration, but then greed oozed through. He said the armor skill was the only one of its kind, and it was the reason Hua Young had been the strongest player in Korea. Translation: I want it. Hand it over. Kim pulled a snake move, snatching Chainsaw Boy's weapon and hurling it at Hua Young. The blade roared. It should have shredded him, but he calmly blocked it with his armored hand. Sparks flew. He chuckled darkly. Even without regression, you think this is enough? Pathetic. Then he grabbed the spinning chainsaw by the blade itself. Squeezed. Metal groaned. The teeth bent. He tossed the ruined thing to the floor like trash. And before Kim could blink, Hua Young's black hand wrapped around his throat. A blue box floated above Kim's head, level 3. Not bad, not enough. What a pity, he thought. Greed breeds destruction. War already taught him that, carved the lesson into his skin with scars, and now Kim, like every other idiot who thought regression was a cheat code, was choking on it. Dangling him by the neck like a rag doll, Hua Young turned to the others. Any more applicants? Their response: open mouths, wide eyes, trembling like wet puppies. He dismissed them with a flat order, leave. Then came the crunch. His grip collapsed Kim's throat, and the body hit the floor like wasted meat. To Hua Young, mercy was just another word for weakness. In war, sparing enemies wasn't thanks, it was stupidity. And here? The law didn't mean jack anymore. The cowards scurried back. He glared at Pipe Girl and Chainsaw Boy, warning them. If they valued their lives, they'd get out of his sight. They didn't need a second invitation. Then came the cruel joke of the system. A glowing inventory box floated over Kim's corpse, turning death into convenient loot pickup. Hua Young clicked without hesitation. Out popped a shiny trinket, Goblin Champion necklace. Strength +3, agility +3. He slipped it on, and the stone pulsed red. Butterfly effect, +1 point, he smirked. 6 free stat points this early, equivalent to 2 whole levels. Kim had died for it, and Hua Young thought, nice necklace, shame about the original owner. Chainsaw Boy crouched by the body, muttering that it looked tasteless. Hua Young ignored him, picked up the nearest chainsaw, and fed it straight into an orc's mouth. 1 rev later, the orc's skull split in half like a watermelon. He shrugged. Don't feel the difference. Sure, the necklace had boosted his strength to 19, but he was already a monster. 3 points here or there didn't change how easily heads popped. Then the dungeon wrapped up. All monsters cleared, rift collapsing in 3 minutes. Translation: leave now or vanish into pixel dust. Nobody knew what happened to players left behind, because bodies disappeared along with the gates. No respawns, just delete. Hua Young strolled toward the portal, jacket torn open, muscles gleaming black with armor. He glanced back at Kim's body, motionless on the stone floor. Then another figure stood in front of him. The boy, the wrench kid. The brat declared he wanted to stay with Hua Young. Bad move. Hua Young shot him down instantly, ordering him out. The kid begged, whined. Hua Young finally grabbed his shoulders, frowning, and growled. Stop. The system popped up his status window. Endurance, 1. Agility, 4. Power, 19 +3 necklace, 28 total. Concentration, 1. Mana, 1. In short, stronger than a level 9 who went all in on strength, an absolute unit. Meanwhile, Wrench Boy clung to his shirt, tears dripping, crying about regressing 10 years into the past. Hua Young snapped at him, quit whining and be a man. The boy, fists clenched, yelled that even 10 years wouldn't change his miserable life. That's why he wanted to follow Hua Young, not as dead weight, but as his hero's assistant. Hua Young's lips curled into a grin. Funny kid. His name, Kim Min-soo, and the only thing that made him interesting was knowing the future 10 years ahead. Min-soo promised he wouldn't disgrace his name. He wanted his life to mean something. Problem was, regression wasn't rare. Everyone had gone back, so his chance at rewriting destiny was slim. 10 years of mediocrity awaited him, clearing baby dungeons, killing weak mobs. But hitching himself to Korea's strongest player, that, he figured, was his ticket to relevance. They walked out of the collapsing dungeon together. Outside, Min-soo begged again. Not to be just a henchman, but Hua Young's right hand once he became the world's #1. Hua Young tested him with a challenge: name 10 people he'd meet in the future, with their names, faces, and levels. Minsu agreed. Hua Young's tone dropped cold. Don't even think about lying. Age wouldn't save him. They exchanged numbers. Minsu ran off, elated, like he'd just been knighted. Hua Young chuckled, shaking his head. Really funny kid. 3 days later, the world was chaos. Regressors hid the truth at first, not that anyone would have believed them. Monsters were real, sure, but time travel? People would just call them insane. And selfishness was the bigger reason. They wanted to play the future differently, without anyone stealing their script. Cities burned. Monsters rampaged. News feeds choked with rumors: who would win the 2024 election, how to profit off the stock market, sports leagues collapsing because too many bettors knew the results. Even scam regressors popped up, pretending to predict the future for cash. The butterfly effect was already shaking everything. Sitting on a couch, TV flickering, Hua Young watched it unfold. A man on the screen introduced himself. Yoon Moon Young. He called the event a catastrophe of unprecedented proportions. The world had become a game. All players had regressed. Beside him sat Lee Dong-guk, director of the Asia-Pacific Players Association. On live broadcast, he reassured the public regression was a blessing. Players would grow stronger faster, humanity would be safer, lives wouldn't change much. Just a few greedy players trying to sell info. Nothing major. Hua Young scoffed. The man was sugarcoating apocalypse, but then came the mention of the last dungeon. Dong-guk admitted the timing was no coincidence. Regression occurred 3 hours after 21 chosen players entered that dungeon. Hua Young froze, leaning forward. So that was it. 10 years from now, the final dungeon opens, and 3 hours after entry, the whole world rewinds. The host asked the big question: what happened there? Just then, they announced a commercial break. Apocalypse on Earth, humanity on the edge, and these clowns still needed ad revenue. Hua Young cursed at the screen. Grinning to himself, he muttered about the strongest player. Finally, it clicked. The reason those construction shop rookies called him hero. To them, it wasn't an insult. It was worship. He looked out the window. Butterfly effect. +1 point. All because he taped film to the windows. Apparently, in his past life, he couldn't even be bothered to winterize. Now, drinking water, sitting on the couch, scratching his nose. Everything earned him points. 37 in total. The system was practically bribing him to exist. He wondered, without this broken mechanic, how the hell had he become Korea's strongest in his last life? Anticipation simmered. The weak always bowed to the strong. He'd learned that as a kid, fists in his collar, being shaken down in alleys. That's why he chased money. That's why he sold himself to wars. Power wasn't a choice, it was survival. And now? Now there was an actual title for it. On TV, the reporter gleefully counted down, pointing to 3 statues. Lee Hua Young, Park Moo-sun, Choi Chul-sun. Korea's heroes who entered the last dungeon. The crowd cheered like sheep. Hua Young froze, petrified by the sight of his own stone face. That's me. His hand gripped the TV screen, jaw tight. In his past life, he'd been nothing but the most expensive mercenary consumable, disposable. But now, 3 days after regression, they'd already built a cult around him. The reporter drooled about how only those 3 knew what happened inside the dungeon, and how they alone had hoarded unique items and legendary skills. Then came the cherry on top. The World Players Association decreed all last dungeon players would be pardoned of their crimes. Every crime. Murder? Fine. Theft? Cool. War crimes? Don't worry, hero. The host frowned weakly, asking if that was really necessary. Dong-guk just shrugged. Of course it was. After all, who would dare tell gods to follow mortal laws? Hua Young shut the TV off with a snap. He'd learned 2 things. 1, everyone was hunting him. 2, he could legally beat them to death for it. He smirked, pulled on a hoodie, and strapped a black mask across his face. Butterfly effect. 1 point. Even hiding his face earned him perks. The system loved a good disguise. He sprinted through the city. Notifications chimed with each step. 55 agility points later, he was practically a rocket. He vaulted rooftops, eyes glowing red, and landed in Gwanghwamun Square. And there it was, his statue. Shadow of Death, Li Huayang. He stared at the engraving. 2 horizontal lines and 1 vertical, his middle finger immortalized in stone. Typical. Beside him stood Park Mu-sun's statue, Emperor of the Sword. Chul-sun's statue, King of Poisons. Dramatic captions about saving humanity etched beneath them. Huayang folded his arms and shook his head. Humanity really needed better role models. Then, right on cue, some wannabe punk in a white jacket smashed the head off his statue with a mace. Dust clouded the square as the punk grinned viciously. Inventory flash, mace hidden. Message received, he wanted a fight. Huayang calmly narrowed his eyes. The brat turned and ran. Wrong move. With 55 agility, Huayang blurred after him, caught him by the throat, and hoisted him up like a misbehaving dog. Know what this means? Huayang asked with a sinister smile, squeezing. It means I already know where you were running to. The boy fumbled for his weapon. Huayang ripped it away. Mace of the Orc Champion. Chance to stun 25% plus 30 damage plus 10 strength. He thanked him mockingly. Who do you work for? Huayang demanded, voice like frost. No way this kid pulled a rare weapon in 5 days solo. He was guild trash, plain and simple. The kid stammered, laughed nervously, demanded to be let go. Huayang's grip tightened. 10 seconds, he warned, dead-eyed. Tell me who you are, or you will disappear without trace. The guy blurted out that the one who sent him was Kim Chang-bi from General Guild, and that this is their first step on Project Li Huayang. He pressed harder. Li Huayang's project. What the hell was that? Huayang listened intently as Chang-bi stammered out the details. According to the man, Li Huayang's project wasn't just a name. It was the General Guild's operation aimed at taking every skill and item Huayang had collected in his previous life. What comes first? Huayang asked. Chang-bi's voice trembled. It's stealth, I swear, don't kill me. It will happen in 3 days at the gate to the werewolf dungeon. Huayang leaned forward and ordered Chang-bi to tell him everything. The man explained that the werewolf dungeon, where Huayang had once obtained the rare stealth skill, would reopen in 3 days. How did they know all this? Huayang asked. Kim Chang-bi hesitated, then said he didn't know the source, only that it was reliable. How do they plan to steal all my skills? Huayang asked. 3 days before the dungeon opens, about 100 players will be on full alert, Chang-bi admitted. They're confident you'll come for the skill you had in your past life. Huayang's eyes narrowed. 100 regressed players, it wouldn't be easy. Min Su arrived shortly after, frowning. Kim Chang-bi is lying. Can I just kill him? Huayang shook his head. First, let's hear what he's collected. Then we decide. Min Su explained the General Guild's target, the stealth skill. Huayang's lips curved into a slight smile. One of them was lying. The blue dialogue box confirmed it. You changed the future. Plus 1 extra point. Kim Chang-bi insisted the werewolf dungeon would open tomorrow. Pointing at Kim Min Su, Kim Chang-bi accused him of deception. Without warning, Huayang extended his black, aura-wrapped hands, lifting both men by their necks. Prove your case, he commanded. Kim Min Su revealed his phone, still no news about Li Huayang. Will he show up at the werewolf dungeon on January 7th? Huayang's eyes narrowed. January 7th. Tomorrow, Kim Min Su continued, showing the dungeon's history. Early players had failed because werewolves were fast, vicious, and moved in packs. Beginner players could barely survive. Over time, the dungeon was abandoned, but the monsters remained, and now everyone hoped a strong player would appear, someone who could finally deal with them. Just then, Huayang asked Chang-bi if everything that Min Su said were true, but Chang-bi couldn't reply because he knew that Huayang has seen through his lies. He cursed, calling Huayang a bastard, but without wasting time, the protagonist snapped Chang-bi's neck. Kim Chang-bi had fallen to the ground, dead. Huayang noted quietly that in his previous life, he hadn't killed him. Now, the werewolf dungeon would open. Huayang folded his arms, speculating that a certain substance might act against werewolves, like rat poison against rats. He needed to learn more. Kim Min Su asked why he cared about a place he had already visited. Huayang's answer was simple. He hadn't regressed. Upon hearing this, Min Su gasped at the shocking truth. After that, they discussed things like how to level up. Huayang checked his stats. Level 2, Stamina 1, Strength 28, Mana 1, Agility 55, Concentration 1, Achievements, Brave Beginner, Skills, First Level Butterfly Effect, First Level Armor. Including points in reserve, he calculated that his stats were equivalent to a level 80 player. Kim Min-soo warned, even at that level, killing werewolves wouldn't be easy. Hua Young frowned, realizing the dungeon's minimum level requirement, level 5, was higher than his actual level. He needed to train. "Where can I level up?" he asked. Kim Min-soo explained that only goblin and orc gates were open now. New gates would appear gradually, and the werewolf gate would open tomorrow. Only 4 days had passed since the game's start. Hua Young noted that goblins and orcs were uninteresting, but to his surprise he found them cute. The blue dialogue box confirmed strength increase, strength 190. Armor glowed blue, amplifying his stats. He asked Kim Min-soo about the blue aura from past levels. Kim Min-soo nodded. The armor's title, Shadow of Death, came from that aura. Goblins approached, malicious smiles on their faces. Hua Young leapt, breaking the floor beneath him. With a black hand wrapped in blue energy, he crushed them. Dialogue boxes confirmed, "You changed the future." +1 extra point. With speed and agility, the goblins didn't stand a chance. Min-soo stood there, the human embodiment of a buffering screen, trying to figure out how on earth Hua Young managed to know less than non-players. Maybe he really hadn't regressed like the rest. Li Hua Young, on the other hand, had long run out of patience. His voice cracked through the air with the precision of a thrown dagger, demanding an answer. That alone was enough to make Min-soo stiffen like a student caught cheating mid-exam. He began explaining, hurriedly, nervously, that a skill stone was exactly what it sounded like. A rock that carried a skill, found near a monster's heart. Each one glowed with its own smug little color code. White for normal, purple for rare, yellow for unique, red for legendary. The kind of rainbow that made adventurers go feral. The stealth skill, he added, rumored to be lurking inside the werewolf dungeon, was rare, which meant its gem would shine purple, elegant, expensive, and very stab-me-now level of hard to get. Li Hua Young raised a brow, because apparently this world came with a color-coded manual he hadn't received. Min-soo, seeing the look, rushed to clarify that skill classes weren't just vanity. They showed rarity. How many copies of a particular skill existed? Rare or lower meant more duplicates out there. For instance, stealth wasn't exactly a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. There were others who could vanish just as gracefully somewhere in the world. Li Hua Young asked if that meant unique and legendary stones existed only once. Min-soo grinned and held up one finger, proudly confirming it like a magician about to reveal his final trick. Oh, and by the way, skills could level up too. The higher the level, the flashier the effects, because of course they could. When Hua Young asked what unique skills even were, Min-soo blinked, hard, like he'd just been asked to explain quantum mechanics to a pigeon. He didn't know, not even slightly. Meanwhile, the main character glanced down at another blue box, as if the game itself decided to flex. Butterfly Effect, Level 1. As the only one who cannot repeat this, you will gain bonus points for every action that alters the future. Min-soo just scratched his head like he'd been handed a riddle and a headache in one go. Hua Young waved it off. The details didn't matter. What mattered was momentum. The next day, as he walked down the street, the screen above his head displayed Li Hua Young, Level 5. Around the corner, Kim Min-soo asked what the plan was, trying to sound tactical but mostly sounding like a loyal sidekick in a B-tier crime flick. Hua Young pointed toward the square, calm, precise, saying he'd handle everything himself. All Min-soo had to do was scout, observe, and report anything remotely interesting. Min-soo nodded eagerly, eyes glowing with the kind of loyalty that made even dogs look uncommitted. And as Hua Young watched him go, he realized something. The gate to the werewolf dungeon would soon open right here. In the distance, 100 players from the General Guild were already gathering, waiting for Hua Young, like storm chasers before a tornado. Which only confirmed what Kim Chang-bi had said all along. This wasn't rumor. This was prophecy warming up its engines. The first move in Li Hua Young's plan was simple in theory, suicidal in practice. Get into the gate before anyone else. The werewolf dungeon only allowed 5 players at a time, and according to Kim Min-soo, the system wasn't the kind to negotiate. Miss that window, and the glory, plus the skill stone, belonged to whoever got in first. Li Huayang checked his wristwatch. 7 minutes left, just enough time for everyone around him to lose their minds. Someone in the crowd shouted like they were narrating a history documentary, claiming this was the exact spot where Li Huayang obtained his rare stealth skill in his previous life, which was impressive, considering the man in question was standing a few meters away, very much unbothered. Then came the blonde, the unofficial hype man of chaos, raising his fist and declaring that the gate would open in 5 minutes, and that the General Guild would make history today. He promised they'd surpass even Li Huayang's legend, which was bold talk for a man seconds away from eating humble pie. He barked orders to stay alert, since Huayang hadn't shown up yet. Meanwhile, Huayang was already there, grinning like the villain in someone else's success story. A blue dialogue box popped up in front of him. Gate will appear in 30 seconds. The crowd began the ritualistic countdown, 10 to 1. Because apparently no one in this world could resist a bit of theatrical tension. When the red gate tore through the air like reality's worst paper cut, the blonde yelled for his team to charge in and make history. One waved to his friend, promising to be back soon, the kind of promise that aged like milk. His yellow-haired companion yelled back not to die in there. Then someone noticed him, the Li Huayang, sprinting toward the gate. The moment of realization spread like panic through the ranks. Weapons came up, voices rose, but the main character didn't even blink. He thought briefly that it had only been 5 days since regression. By any logical measure, no one's agility should have exceeded 50 yet. But logic could sit this one out. Huayang wasn't here to obey physics. He blitzed past the armed players like they were NPCs buffering mid-attack. The crowd erupted. How's he that fast? That kind of agility shouldn't exist. Don't just stand there, chase him. They didn't need to bother. The red portal swallowed him whole, and the last guy chasing him stopped dead as a message glowed in front of his face. Player limit reached. Kim Min-soo stood frozen, mouth half open, like a man who just watched someone outclick destiny itself. Inside, the night forest waited. 5 figures, pale and startled, stared at Li Huayang. One of them even said his name, trembling like someone meeting their childhood nightmare in person. Huayang found it amusing, convenient even. They all knew who he was thanks to regression. No introductions required. Efficiency was a gift. Blue boxes flickered beside the players, and the one with blue hair rallied them to attack. Whips gleamed green in the dark, not exactly intimidating until the system labeled them. Goblin Chieftain's Whip, low damage, allows control of goblins. Damage +1. Not impressive, but they gave it their best anime yell and charged. Huayang triggered his armor skill, his arms and neck turning obsidian black. The whips coiled around him, tugging his limbs apart. Another blue pop-up appeared like a sarcastic referee. You changed the future, +1 extra point. The blue-haired one fumbled out a net. Desperate times, desperate props. Huayang almost laughed. They'd realized fast that they couldn't damage him, so they went for restraint instead. Clever. Naive, but clever. Moments later, the net was on them instead, and Huayang crouched beside their tangled bodies. He said it was a nice try, pity it didn't work. That's when the forest shifted. Growls crawled through the air. Red eyes gleamed in the dark, black wolves emerged, fangs dripping, breath hot and furious. Huayang tilted his head, unimpressed, and asked why they looked so angry. The wolves didn't answer, too busy auditioning for a horror movie. He turned to the bound players, half amused, half serious, and asked if they wanted to be snacks tonight. Their chorus of terrified denials filled the silence, and he nodded solemnly. Good choice. The wolves lunged. From the sidelines, the blue-haired player stammered that Li Huayang was trapped. The one in the black shirt insisted the werewolves had him cornered. The blue-haired one sighed in defeat, already mourning their fate, convinced they were all about to die. One of the wolves twitched, and that was its final mistake. Li Huayang rose to his feet, his fist blackened with the armor skill still pulsing through it. He didn't roar, didn't posture, just raised his hand, and every wolf around him scattered like trained soldiers remembering their commander. The players watching were frozen in disbelief, their expressions somewhere between reverence and regret. Huayang only muttered that he had simply remembered it once. Wolves and dogs were nearly the same, save for what centuries of human affection had bred out of one and hardened into the other. He remembered learning that trick years ago. During a smuggler hunt of all things, a guard dog had sunk its teeth into his arm, and on pure instinct, He'd grabbed its muzzle, locking eyes until the animal recognized the hierarchy. The dog had backed off. That time, he'd let it live. But these weren't dogs, they were monsters, and monsters didn't get mercy. A snarl snapped him back. A wolf lunged, and Hua Young's hands closed around its jaws, crushing inward until the bones folded like paper. The forest echoed with a wet crunch. No drama, no hesitation, just efficient brutality. Several wolves circled him now, but he didn't flinch. The man in the black shirt, probably still catching up to reality, asked why he didn't just kill all of them. Hua Young replied, calm as ever, that there was no need. If every monster died, the dungeon would collapse, the gate would vanish, and outside, the General Guild would immediately know who cleared it. They'd flip the whole of Korea trying to find him. He didn't need that kind of attention, not yet. 2 more wolves growled, saliva bubbling at their jaws. 3 charged, fangs bared. Hua Young didn't even blink, he just murmured that it wouldn't be enough. A heartbeat later, 3 corpses hit the ground. The onlookers didn't even see what happened, they just saw him standing, behind the bodies, dusting his hands like he'd finished light work. He turned to the stunned players, and began speaking almost absently, as though recounting a story. After the game began, rifts tore across the world, monsters spilled through them like divine punishment, cities burned, humanity cracked, everyone thought it was the end. To combat it, a system appeared. Rules, levels, dungeons, a game wrapped in apocalypse. If you wanted to stop the end, you had to play. But not everyone agreed. Some believed it was all divine will, judgment for human arrogance. Fanatics appeared, shouting repentance into the ruins. Somewhere, a man in a black hoodie raised his arms, declaring that they accepted the will of the Lord and repented for mankind's sins. Around him, green-robed zealots clasped their hands, chanting that goblins were God's little messengers. Because apparently theology had lost all quality control. Faith, Hua Young thought, was a flexible word. Guilds had worshippers now, fans, members, believers. They grew, fought, consumed. Dungeons were their altars. And the irony? Those monsters they hunted provided resources, energy, weapons, profit. Skill stones fetched fortunes, and clearing a gate earned both money and applause. Religion and business, salvation and power, the perfect merger. He looked down at the men before him. Calmly he asked who was in charge. The group muttered the name, Choi Chul-sun, their supposed main character. Hua Young blinked, as if someone had just called him by a name written on a tombstone. He'd seen that name before, carved on the statue right next to his own. He asked if they'd come here for stealth. The dark-haired one stammered that they were only following his orders. The red-haired one, apparently the group's emotional support hothead, snapped and called him a traitor. Hua Young paused, not for dramatic effect, but because choosing which idiot to deal with first required mental energy. Then he sat beside the redhead, laid a hand on his shoulder, and smiled. One squeeze later, the boy's shoulder cracked like cheap glassware. His scream echoed through the dungeon. Hua Young grinned, eyes flaring red. Rising, he repeated Choi Chul-sun's name under his breath. If memory served, that man was the head of the General Guild, one of the heroes who'd entered the final dungeon with him, one of the statues in Gwanghwamun Square. He remembered the government report about the statue erection, all fancy speeches and zero sincerity. He had never even met Chul-sun, yet they called them colleagues. Apparently, dying near each other once made you friends. Now that same man's lackeys were here trying to steal his skill. Typical. Still, Hua Young wasn't even mad. Greed was human nature, the engine of progress as he liked to think. He opened one eye, shadows rippled across the ground, and a pack of black wolves materialized. Good, he thought. There were always 25 werewolves in this dungeon, no more, no less. Kill a few, the system spawned replacements, a perfectly balanced ecosystem of cannon fodder. Convenient timing meant he wouldn't even have to lift a finger. Clutching the net in his hand, Hua Young muttered that he hoped Choi Chul-sun would forgive him for killing his men. The dark-haired boy made a pathetic plea, the kind that didn't even sound convincing to himself. Then the net flew. The wolves lunged. Just as they died, the gate was now open for 4 more candidates. Just then, a blond guy in a red sweatshirt appeared through the portal, looking far too cheerful for someone walking into carnage. Hua Young noted the system rule, dungeon cap, 5 players. When the last 4 idiots died, new ones could enter. And now, the new batch had arrived just in time to die creatively. He stood amid corpses, human and werewolf, hands dripping crimson. Extra points, 93. The number looked pretty beside his name, like an accidental compliment. 3 guys and a girl charged from the gate, green whips blazing, probably thinking they'd make history. A few seconds later, they were wrapped up and netted, matching the previous losers. Hua Young folded his arms and asked which of the wolves had the stone. The blonde said it was the one with white eyebrows. Finally, some honesty, Hua Young mused, impressed by how quickly this batch surrendered. Bodies and blood paved the floor, limbs scattered like bad decor. He walked through it all, crouched beside the trembling white-browed werewolf, and crushed its skull with one hand. The sound was wet and final. People from the General Guild froze. Watching Hua Young rip apart the werewolf's chest barehanded wasn't exactly morale-boosting. He shoved his hand into the corpse and grimaced. "Disgusting," his expression said for him. He made a mental note to train Kim Min-soo as a professional butcher. Someone had to handle the messy jobs. From the gore, he pulled out a glowing purple stone. Skill acquired, stealth. The system kindly explained the obvious. Invisibility duration tied to mana. The guy in green sighed, mentioning it was the same skill used by the hero of the last dungeon. The girl muttered that it could have sold for millions or made her stronger. But fate had a cruel sense of humor. It had returned to its rightful owner. Hua Young smirked. Selling it for money was tempting, but why trade power for paper? From the start, true dominance wasn't bought, it was built. He remembered the orphanage, the battlefield, the years spent clawing through hopelessness. All he wanted now was power, the kind that broke reality in half. He pressed the stone to his lips and whispered to himself, not a prayer, but a declaration. He would rewrite history. Stealth skill locked. Unlocks at level 10. He frowned. Level 6. 4 more to go. How tedious. When the blonde asked what was wrong, Hua Young muttered that strength meant nothing if numbers held him back. He stared at his stats. Plus 102 extra points. Perfect. All into strength. Strength, 289 plus 3. He figured he'd use stealth once he left the dungeon. After all, 100 unfriendly fans from the General Guild were waiting outside to kill him for that same skill. Even with his absurd stats, fighting all 100 would be inconvenient, and as long as one werewolf remained alive, the dungeon would never close. So he'd just leave one breathing. How generous of him. 3 punches later, 3 werewolves died, and the system went nuts. Level up, plus 3 extra points, level 10, stealth unlocked. Hua Young raised his transparent hand, eyebrow arched. The blonde explained that at higher levels even his clothes would vanish. Hua Young looked down, unimpressed. So basically, level up, or streak, he thought. He tested it, and promptly vanished. The guild panicked, they begged. He didn't care. They had come to steal his power. Instead, they donated experience points. Moments later, the gate exploded open. The crowd outside gasped. Another death, another chance. No one noticed the invisible man casually strolling past them, naked, transparent, and annoyingly smug. Kim Min-soo caught a glimpse and shrieked. Hua Young pressed a finger to his lips and smirked. Level up first, explanations later. Hua Young asked if Min-soo saw a taxi nearby. Pointing lazily in the direction, he told him to go take it. Min-soo nodded, frowning like someone being sent on an errand he didn't volunteer for. Moments later, headlines exploded across every major channel. Li Hua Young appears, returns for the skills he once owned. 8 members of the General Guild slain by werewolves, werewolf skulls crushed. Li Hua Young's brutal hunting method. Is the monster unstoppable again? 5 days since the start of the game, and already, the werewolf dungeon was gone. Hua Young leaned his cheek against his hand, staring at his phone like a man scrolling through a mildly annoying meme thread. Min-soo jogged over and waved his own phone, eyes wide. Young, you need to see this. On screen, the news anchor looked far too cheerful to be talking about death. They were discussing Hua Young's reappearance, trying to make sense of it like gossiping about a celebrity sighting. One panelist, bald, loud, and overconfident, claimed it was because of star quality. Hua Young blinked. Star quality? Min-soo leaned in and said they were debating it. The bald man elaborated. Before entering the final dungeon in the previous timeline, Hua Young had famously flipped off every reporter in sight, and somehow people had loved it. He's strong, unshakable, and doesn't care about anything. That's the kind of player the world worships. Hua Young smirked faintly. At least this guy can talk properly, he muttered. Then the host announced that the chairman of the Players' Skills and Technology Association wanted to comment. A calm voice came through. An older man with pale hair and unnerving yellow eyes introduced himself as Park Young-sik. He began, "If today's topic is Lee Hua Young's future actions, then I have something to say." The studio fell silent. Park continued, "When Lee Hua Young appeared at the werewolf dungeon, the game was already over." The other panelists exploded in disbelief. "What are you saying? That's ridiculous." Park didn't flinch. Even with chaos around him, his tone stayed steady. Too calm for comfort. Min-soo whispered that Park Young-sik was one of the most influential figures in the world of players, someone whose every statement was recorded and analyzed. But as regressors returned and information became public, the once powerful association had lost much of its control. Still, Park wasn't just some washed-up academic. He pulled something from beneath the desk. A head, a werewolf's head. The studio screamed. One girl kept repeating the same shriek like a broken alarm. Park placed the crushed skull on the table. He said he'd studied dungeon creatures for over a decade, but this was the first time he'd seen marks like these. "See here," he said, pointing. "A finger mark, about this size. The skull bones are far denser than a human. Statistically, only a level -40 player with max strength could crush one barehanded." The bald man turned red. "Are you implying a level 5 player did that?" Park didn't argue. He simply stated that the current highest dungeon was level 14, and even its gear couldn't cause such damage. Everyone froze. Hua Young chuckled quietly at the screen. The panic, the denial, the self-preserving outrage. It was all so predictable. He thought about how these same people, from guild executives to dungeon corporations, thrived on keeping the system stable. If it turned out he really did kill werewolves with a flick of his finger, the entire world economy would spiral. The regressors' morale would shatter. The monopolies would crumble. Park calmly concluded, "The game is over. In this life, Lee Hua Young will once again be one of the final dungeon's entrants, and he will clear it." After Hua Young was done with the news, he leaned back, thinking that everything he did now was diverging from his previous life, earning him extra points every time. The only constant was the world's obsession with strength, and right now, his level was all that mattered. Despite his monstrous stats, he realized that being a low-level player still limited everything: dungeons, skills, even stealth activation. If he stopped growing, every player out there would turn on him like starving wolves. Without wasting time, he set out to level up in a gate. Dungeons have level gates, he thought. If you can't meet them, you can't enter, and you can't grow stronger. He snapped a werewolf's finger absent-mindedly and muttered that leveling up through them was the fastest method for now. Hua Young held a struggling werewolf by the neck. "I'm getting bored," he said. "Let's find something else to kill." Min-soo, ever the reluctant voice of reason, argued that this dungeon was still the best spot for now. Tossing the corpse aside, Hua Young asked which dungeon was next. Min-soo reported that the level 14 Blue Monkey dungeon had opened, but that no one could enter yet. Hua Young tilted his head. "Is there even a level 14 player out there right now?" Min-soo shook his head. "Only 5 days since the start. It's impossible, even without sleeping," which meant no one could enter the dungeon. Hua Young's grin returned. "Then the blue monkeys will come to us, won't they?" Exactly. The same thing had happened in his previous life. The dungeon spawned too early, and the monsters wreaked havoc before anyone could stop them. Min-soo nervously explained that the blue monkeys weren't easy prey. They were fast, smart, and adaptive. But Hua Young wasn't worried. His dialogue box flashed. Extra points, 324. The dialogue box blinked again. 324 extra points, and not a single level 14 player in sight. He brushed it off with a quiet whatever. Stepping through the red portal with Kim Min-soo, Hua Young felt the static of the world ripple against his skin. That explained why not a single soul was here, not even a desperate scavenger. Hands in his pockets, he muttered something about the place being too quiet. Min Su pointed the way with a nervous grin, claiming he'd seen blue monkeys before, on TV of course. He reminded Hua Young that those things weren't just strong, they were clever. Ranged attacks, mimicry, and just enough curiosity to make them insufferable. Then came a loud honk. Somewhere ahead, a car alarm blared, followed by metallic laughter, the kind that only homicidal primates could produce. Min Su shuddered. "Looks like the monsters learned to drive," he muttered under his breath. Hua Young snorted, half amused, half annoyed. He remembered their speed, their arrogance. Annoying creatures, fast, loud, and barely worth the effort. A system message popped in front of him again. 521 additional points. He barely glanced before assigning them to dexterity. A surge of blue aura flared around him and then he was gone, a blur cutting through the wind like it owed him rent. Min Su shielded his face from the gust, shouting for him to slow down. He didn't. The next thing he saw was chaos. Blue monkeys tumbling, dialogue boxes popping, and Hua Young standing in the middle like the world's most violent janitor. Monkeys tried to retreat into the portal, screeching, clawing, only to find it locked. Just as players couldn't enter over their limit, monsters couldn't leave. A poetic kind of prison. Hua Young grinned at their panic. Even beasts, he thought, wore the same face when trapped. Fear was universal. Min Su could barely process it. The creatures said to be the destroyers of humanity were now running like guilty toddlers. Hua Young chuckled darkly, more predator than man, and charged again. Blue blood splattered as dialogue boxes spammed with level-up notifications. He opened his status window mid-slaughter. Level 17. Endurance, 1. Agility, 573 plus 3. Strength, 289 plus 3. Plus 3. Concentration, 1. Mana, bonus points, 212. Min Su gawked. 6 days since the game started, and he was already level 17. Hua Young leaned on his knees, panting. The exhaustion gnawed at him, his stamina stat mocking him like a cheap joke. But it didn't matter. Every level up refilled his tank. All he needed was a few more dead monkeys. He pushed more points into stamina, the aura bursting blue around him again. The monkeys shrieked and threw garbage, literal garbage, at him. It was hard to tell if it was an attack or a protest. He just caught one by the tail and used it as a club. Efficient, messy, borderline comedic. Min Su stood frozen, watching the carnage unfold. When it was over, the parking lot looked like a monkey apocalypse. Catching his breath, Hua Young cursed under his breath. The cameras. Every bloody frame of this massacre was now immortalized on CCTV. Min Su's voice broke the silence. They had to destroy the gate. Hua Young frowned. Why? A gate like this could be a gold mine, monsters on tap, easy farming. But Min Su explained that if lower dungeons weren't destroyed, higher ones wouldn't spawn. Simple ecosystem logic. Hua Young realized he was right. Humanity was too selfish to ever coordinate that kind of restraint, which in his case worked perfectly. The more he cleared, the more chaos he'd cause for others. And honestly, that sounded fun. Min Su added that closing this gate so early would trigger the appearance of level 15 dungeons in just a few hours, something that, in their last life, took over 9 days. Hua Young raised an eyebrow. How did he even know that? Min Su showed his phone, a site called The Games, an online community where players shared dungeon data, completion times, and ranks. The whole thing was monitored by the World Players Association, which meant these records were practically official. Hua Young understood immediately. If rankings determined recognition, and recognition determined entry into the last dungeon, then this leaderboard wasn't just numbers, it was fate. He grinned. Fearless, that would be his nickname. It didn't mean much, maybe it never did, but it felt right. Min Su nodded quickly, already typing it in. The name Fearless didn't sound right to Hua Young, but he let it slide. Min Su was already registering it. The phone flashed. Blue Monkey Dungeon cleared. Level 14, January 8, 1534. ID, Fearless. Online comments exploded. People warned that level 15 monsters were next. After the game began, gate shelters were built, dome-shaped fortresses to shield civilians when a gate appeared. Inside one, a little girl complained to her mother about being stuck there. The mother smiled weakly, promising players would clear it soon. Then, a shout. Someone claimed the blue ape gate was gone, another mocked him, until a screen behind them lit up with footage of Hua Young crushing blue monkeys. The crowd erupted. Some doubted, others cheered. Whoever Fearless was, they called him their hero. Later, Hua Young and Min Su walked through the city. Min Su said that in his past life, Japan cleared a level 15 dungeon after 41 days, while Korea failed. Hua Young asked what monster awaited them next. Min Su said a giant bear and that below level 20 monsters still lacked abilities. Once they started, progress slowed. He muttered about the 300-kilometer trek, but Hua Young told him to move. Dialogue boxes followed behind them. You change the future. E1 point. Min Su, curious, asked what counted as changing the future. He gave an example about dropping a pen. Hua Young replied dryly, maybe. Min Su concluded that even walking changed the future. A red truck screeched behind them. The driver yelled for them to get off the road. Min Su apologized, flustered, but Hua Young approached with a smile. A moment later he was gone, sprinting beside the moving truck. The driver panicked as Hua Young matched his speed, warning him to drive safely if he wanted to live. The system chimed again, you change the future. E1 point. The driver, pale, muttered that no human could move that fast after only 9 days of gameplay. Hua Young didn't care. Every change widened the gap between him and the others. Regression memories were useless once the future shifted, and he was already ahead. Clenching his fist, he thought about level 20 monsters. Soon, a bear the size of a house appeared. He muttered that monsters start using skills at level 20, then drove his fist through its gut. 3 bears attacked. He snapped one's neck, grinned, and crushed the rest one by one. Level up. Plus 3 points. Future changed. Online despair grew. Players complained they couldn't even beat level 16 monsters. Others joked about quitting. But someone noticed Fearless's posts. One called him Korea's savior. Min Su froze mid-scroll. Another dungeon had been cleared. Hua Young asked who. Min Su said, Poison Choi. Hua Young recognized the name. Choi Cheol's son, once the Poison King and future guild leader. He laughed, saying things were getting interesting. Choi had cleared level 16 faster than expected, almost as if waiting for Fearless. Hua Young figured he'd regained an old skill early. He ordered Min Su to find out what weapon Choi once used. Min Su said it was a black dagger, the kind people once said could drown the planet in blood. Hua Young dismissed the drama, only asking what monster dropped it. Min Su said it was the golden leopard, a level 20 beast. Hua Young smirked, saying it didn't matter. Moments later, new posts appeared online. Level 17 Golem Dungeon cleared. Level 18 Raging Ogre Dungeon cleared. Hua Young, eyes on the horizon, asked where the level 20 dungeon would open next. The level 19 dungeon is near Gangnam Station, and the level 20 dungeon is in Yeoldong Park in Bandung, Gyeonggi Province. Hua Young replied that it was 30 minutes without taking traffic into account. Kim Min-soo said that they would be lucky if it appeared in a park with no people. Hua Young smirked, saying that even if there were people, they wouldn't be able to go and they could watch him retrieve his weapons. Hua Young's status window read, Level 21, Stamina 213, Agility 573 plus 3. Hua Young told himself to invest the extra points into strength. The dialogue boxes confirmed the increase. Strength 1033. Quenching his fist, he said that now he could fight with his bear. Kim Min-soo, awkwardly, replied that he could see. The dialogue box announced, the player's strength stat has exceeded 1000 for the first time. New achievement unlocked. King of Power. Petrification skill acquired. Petrification first level turns the opponent's body to stone for 3 seconds. Duration is proportional to the player's strength stat. Hua Young pointed a palm wrapped in blue aura at Kim Min-soo and asked if he could move. Kim Min-soo confirmed he couldn't. He asked if it was truly petrification and if it had reached the power of 1000. Hua Young replied affirmatively and quizzically noted that Kim Min-soo was always surprised at his abilities. Kim Min-soo said it was amazing because Hua Young had just received the skill that Emperor Yeon Seong-wai had. Hua Young asked about the Emperor. Min-soo opened something on his phone showing Hua Young a large list of past life dungeon records. The Chinese king, Yeon Seong-wai, was ranked first, nicknamed the Emperor, a legendary player who had united all the players in China. Hua Young noted that, in his previous life, he had cleared more dungeons than him. The player rating showed the Chinese king ranked first, and Hua Young second. Kim Min-soo said that the dungeons cleared in the past definitely had items and weapons they had used. He waved his fists enthusiastically, admiring Hua Young's strength, saying it was much higher than top tier. Hua Young told him to go to the location of the level 20 dungeon and report who would be there. He said he would arrive after clearing the level 19 dungeon in Gangnam. Their backs were turned to each other, and Kim Min-soo replied that he would contact him immediately if anything strange occurred. Sometime later after, above a monster with a single huge red eye, all-eyed mole level 19. Hua Young realized he needed to kill these monsters to trigger the level 20 golden leopard gate. If anyone else cleared a level 19 dungeon, the level 20 gate would appear. But it seemed no one else in the world could clear a level 19 dungeon yet, so it was up to him to eliminate the blue-eyed moles. A police officer in a bulletproof vest asked Hua Young to show his documents. Hua Young thought it looked like they were trying to evacuate everyone. He calmly replied that he didn't have them. Suddenly, a gray one-eyed mole jumped out of the ground with a loud squeak. The police fired automatic weapons but shouted at Hua Young to leave the zone. It's dangerous, but Hua Young informed them that guns won't work on this types of monsters. Noticing his knowledge on monsters, the officer asked him if he's a player, and Hua Young replied, yes, he is. Behind the officers, a blue-eyed mole leaped up, swinging huge claws. Hua Young's eyes glowed red, and he used petrification. The mole froze and fell to the ground. Hua Young grabbed the mole by the neck with his black hand and crushed it. The dialogue box, "You changed the future," 1 extra point earned. The police let him pass and wished him luck. Hua Young descended the steps to the red portal underground. Compared to other monsters, these moles were cunning. There were only 15 red-eyed moles in the dungeon. Hua Young observed the holes in front of him. Digging each one individually would waste too much time. He opened his inventory. A blue dialogue box appeared. The blue monkey's fur emits extremely harmful fumes when burned. Hua Young remembered Kim Min-soo's advice about using burnt blue monkey fur to lure monsters, so he had saved some. Kneeling down, he noted the 15 moles and their burrows had caused a lot of trouble in his previous life. A mole jumped from a hole, swinging a paw. Hua Young blocked with his black hand, grabbed its neck and crushed it. He held out a tuft of fur to the next hole. Dialogue box, "You changed the future," 1 extra point earned. He threw the blue monkey's fur and a burning match into the burrow. Dialogue boxes surrounded him, proclaiming his future changes. Counting to 15, the dialogue box announced, level increased. 3 additional points awarded. All monsters in the dungeon were defeated. The gate would be destroyed in 3 minutes. Kim Min-soo called on the phone, worried about the reporters at the scene. Hua Young instructed him to clear them out and assured him he would arrive soon. No guild members were present. Kim Min-soo wondered why, and why no one knew about Hua Young's stealth. Hua Young thought that if any came, they wouldn't return. The police officer muttered that the fearless one was Hua Young, as expected. He had killed all the moles in just half an hour. Hua Young stood beside a police car in Yeoldong Park. He told Kim Min-soo to deal with the reporters. Min-soo apologized, they hadn't listened. Hua Young hung up and decided to resolve everything himself. People in the crowd noticed him. A reporter handed him a tape recorder, asking about players worldwide complaining. A female reporter asked if he was deliberately undermining player morale. Another cameraman said the world was undergoing massive destruction, high-level monsters appearing faster than before, and asked if he felt responsible. Hua Young, unimpressed by the noise, he decided to use this hour to ensure the reporters and other nuisances stayed away. He said he was the only one capable of this and remarked that the weak were responsible for their own fate. A dark, red-haired reporter who entered the last dungeon representing Canon, claiming Hua Young was overrated now but would become the weakest in late game. Hua Young asked which channel had the most viewers. People in a yellow shirt and a girl with pink hair raised their hands, shouting out the channel. A reporter with dark red hair introduced himself as Bovard. Hua Young exhaled sharply, surrounded by flashing cameras. Without a word, he lifted his hand and gave Bovard the middle finger. He did this with the idea to dare any other players who would come after him, and also to replicate the signature which Min-soo told him he's known for in their past lives. In the next scene, our guy entered the latest dungeon to level up. A blue dialogue box appeared in front of Hua Young. System notification: Golden Leopard Dungeon. Golden leopards, 7, maximum players, 2. Dungeon difficulty, B+. He studied it briefly. Hunting 7 golden leopards wasn't going to be easy even for someone of his current level. It meant the dungeon contained rare tier items, the kind players risked their lives for. Hua Young tightened his gloves, his body wrapped in faint blue aura. 3 golden leopards prowled before him, their eyes glowing like molten gold. The air vibrated with tension. He knew what this meant. If he misjudged their movement even once, their claws could rip through him in seconds. When the first leopard lunged, he countered instantly, fist glowing blue colliding with its chest. The beast snarled, but Hua Young winced, feeling his arm go numb. The sudden notification explained it. Status effect, skill seal, temporary. He smirked bitterly. So it's this kind of dungeon. The other leopards circled him, growling low. He realized that without his skills, this fight would rely purely on instinct and timing. No flashy moves, just blood, reflexes, and will. They charged again. Hua Young ducked under a claw swipe, slammed his elbow into a jaw, and kicked off the ground, twisting mid-air. When he landed, he thought briefly, if only he had armor, he could block their strikes instead of dodging everyone. Unfortunately, he didn't. The next few seconds were chaos, claws, roars, dust, and impact, then silence. When it was over, a pile of golden corpses surrounded him. Hua Young exhaled quietly, wiping blood from his lip. Dialogue boxes appeared again. System notification, you have defeated the level 20 golden leopards. Reward received. He frowned. The system window glimmered faintly. Something new had appeared in his inventory. He opened it and saw a weapon encased in a red aura. Item description: Dagger of Destruction. A dagger capable of wreaking havoc on both its wielder and its targets. Absorbs the effects of the owner's skills. Hua Young turned it over, testing the balance. The blade shimmered faintly when it touched his skin, leaving a thin red mark. He grinned. Not bad. The gate countdown appeared above him. System notification, all monsters defeated. Gate collapse in 3 minutes. He glanced at the dagger again. No stats, no bonuses, just a purple-grade description and a strange energy that reminded him of something from his previous life. It was the same weapon, the one he had once used to rewrite history. Activating his armor skill, the dagger's aura darkened to pitch black. When he used stealth, both his body and the weapon vanished into the shadows. A low chuckle escaped him. Yeah, it really is getting back to me. When the gate finally crumbled, Hua Young stepped out into the city. Reporters swarmed instantly. Microphones, flashes, and voices all collided into a blur. Is it true that you're the player behind the Fearless ID? Did you clear the Golden Leopard dungeon alone? Was there a weapon from your previous life inside? He ignored them all, glancing once at Min Su, who stood helplessly among the crowd. Hua Young had asked him to keep the reporters away, but that clearly hadn't worked. Another reporter leaned in. What's your current level and strength stat? Hua Young finally spoke, voice steady and low. Level 24, strength 1033. The crowd froze. Reporters exchanged nervous glances. Hua Young pushed past them, parting the crowd like a tide. I heard, he muttered, that whatever I do now is technically legal. Then, turning briefly, he smirked. So if anyone tries to bother me again, I'll kill them. The next morning, the headlines exploded across every news outlet. Middle finger in response to Bovard's provocation. Force 1033, the emergence of a god. Golden Leopard dungeon cleared in under 40 minutes. North Korean officials call Lee Hua Young a global threat. Player warns, if you interfere with me, I'll kill you. The world had gone into chaos again. Min Su caught up with him later, nervously glancing at his phone. That skill you mentioned earlier, the Eye of God, he began. Hua Young turned to him. What about it? Min Su explained that it was a unique skill from Hua Young's past life, one that allowed him to see a player's stats and inventory. A skill so rare it existed in only one instance worldwide. At higher levels, it could even detect micro-expressions, muscle tension, and the rhythm of an opponent's heart from meters away. Basically, Min Su said quietly, it let you see everything. Hua Young's expression darkened. He remembered that ability, and the pile of corpses that had once accompanied it. Do the guilds know about it? He asked. Kim Min Su's voice cut through the air again. He said the major guilds in South Korea had already built a broad summary of every player who entered the last dungeon. Every name, every skill, every step. Hua Young tilted his head, asking if that meant they already knew a regression would happen. If they really did, then gathering information about the strongest players before the reset wasn't just clever, it was strategy. Still, the idea that anyone knew about regression before it happened was absurd. Even for him. Min-Soo shook his head. He said he didn't know much about regression either, he just wanted to kill players. Hua Young's grin deepened. Kill players, huh? Min-Soo went on, saying that the big guilds had detailed records on famous players, where they went, what they got, and when. Hua Young asked what that had to do with murder. Min-Soo simply said, everything. He brought up the stealth theft attempts, reminding Hua Young how they had prepared nets and whips, because they already knew he had armor. Now that he possessed stealth, they'd surely come up with another countermeasure. Red Eyes were already watching him. Min-Soo guessed that since they failed last time, it was logical they'd tracked every one of Hua Young's actions up until he entered the final dungeon. They were just waiting for a chance to strike. Hua Young thought that the papers detailing his previous life were now like treasure maps, guides leading those vultures straight to his skills and relics. Min-Soo sighed, saying he too had been part of a guild in his past life. Then pausing, he asked something that caught Hua Young's attention. If someone recorded every player's skills and items, how would they know where those things came from? Simple, Min-Soo said they recorded the gates. If someone didn't have a skill in Gate 1 but suddenly used it in Gate 2, it meant they'd obtained it in the first. Hua Young's grin returned. Players were willing to kill others for items and skills, so naturally they started watching every move. Less risk, more reward. He said he liked it. Then the topic shifted to the General Guild, Korea's most powerful. Its leader, Poison King Choi Chul-sung, was one of the few who entered the last dungeon. They had unmatched information networks, and they'd already tried stealing his stealth once. Hua Young figured if they knew where the stealth stone was, they probably knew where everything else was too. With a faint grin, he admitted he and Choi Chul-sung had some kind of silent understanding. No one appeared at the Golden Leopard Gate because they were likely after something more important, the Eye of God. For regressors, ordinary items were meaningless unless they were legendary. Min-Soo explained that with knowledge from their past lives, they could easily craft high-tier gear. Corporations had once been heavily involved in manufacturing during the previous timeline. Hua Young mused that maybe not just the General Guild, but others were also at the same gate. When Min-Soo asked why, Hua Young replied it'd be easier to kill him after he collected everything, rather than chasing each piece one by one. He imagined a crowd of armored figures, swords, daggers, staffs, all waiting for the perfect moment. If they kill me then, he said, they save time. That is, if they succeed. Not long after, the system released a new announcement. Republic of Korea server, level 21 Black Orc dungeon successfully cleared. Date, January 11th, 12:31. User ID, Poison Choi. Hua Young looked at the message and smiled faintly. He was trying, that much was clear. The rankings had thinned. Foreign players from the US and China had dropped off after level 20. Now, only he and Choi Chul-sung remained. The system window flickered before him. Level 25, Hua Young. Stamina, 223. Agility, 573 plus 3. Strength, 1033 plus 3. He dumped all his points into concentration. Concentration, 732. He grinned. No one's fit to be king yet. He recalled that the Emperor title came from reaching 1000 in any single stat. When his strength passed that mark, he'd earned the King of Power title, and the petrification skill once wielded by the Emperor Yang Song-wai himself. Min-Soo smiled. Good choice. Concentration matters, and he was right. Concentration sharpened everything: vision, movement, instinct. It turned chaos into rhythm. With high concentration, Hua Young could dodge faster, detect openings better, and even maintain awareness when skills were sealed. Standing still, hands clasped, a blue aura wrapped around him. His eyes closed, mind steady. Min-Soo shoved his hands into his pockets. You need mana? After a pause, Hua Young muttered, Not yet. He admired Hua Young's restraint. Using skills only when necessary. That's what made him dangerous. The mana stat determined how efficiently one could draw from the surrounding streams, but for Hua Young, precision always outweighed excess. Rubbing the side of his neck, Hua Young mentioned that he needed to raise his stealth level immediately. Kim Min-soo, who clearly hadn't caught up to the concept of subtlety, wondered aloud why not just rush in and clean up everything quickly. Hua Young found that suggestion amusing. Charging in without a plan was exactly why most people died before hitting level 10. He reminded himself that torturing hostages rarely produced useful information. Espionage and infiltration, now that was how things got done. With a faint grin that hinted at mischief, Hua Young added that once his stealth reached level 2, he'd be standing right inside the General Guild headquarters. Min-soo tilted his head studying him, and commented that Hua Young always wore such plain, almost painfully normal clothes. Min-soo said that since Hua Young was stronger now, he should start dressing like it. Hua Young lifted his jacket slightly, wondering what Min-soo was getting at. Min-soo clarified, still smiling, that something cool would better show off his strength. Hua Young smirked, replying that he didn't need flashy clothes. He was already cool enough. The kind of confidence that didn't need sequins to shine. Min-soo nodded as if conceding the point, then muttered that maybe the clothes would have just made it more obvious. He dropped his gaze, looking mildly defeated. Hua Young exhaled, telling him to just lead the way. Min-soo blinked in surprise, then quickly agreed. They stopped before a sleek glass building. Min-soo explained that, according to rumors, this was the best shop for players preparing for dungeon runs. Once inside, he added, proudly of course, that the store didn't just sell regular clothes, but also unique items designed to make players stand out. The interior looked more like a collector's display than a shop. 2 crossed swords hung proudly on the wall, while rows of glittering potions lined the shelves, each bottle shimmering in its own hue. While Min-soo chatted enthusiastically about everything in sight, Hua Young wandered through the aisles, scanning the merchandise with a calm, appraising look. At one point, Min-soo waved a leopard print sweatshirt and some gold jewelry in his face, and Hua Young simply shook his head. No words needed. Then the store clerk appeared, politely asking if they needed assistance. Hua Young turned, but Min-soo darted forward like an eager salesman, declaring that they were searching for something that looked really cool. The employee stiffened, perhaps already regretting his career choices, then nodded and asked them to follow him. Moments later, Min-soo lifted a box of clothes, as if he'd discovered buried treasure. Hua Young commented that he looked oddly happy and suggested they go pay for it. Just before they could, the clerk, wearing a nervous smile, bowed deeply and apologized for his bluntness. He insisted that they accept the items for free as a gesture of thanks for their visit. Hua Young grinned, the kind of grin that said, of course. Min-soo blinked, asking if that was really true. Wearing dark attire beneath a raincoat, Hua Young walked down the dim street beside Kim Min-soo. He asked how one could improve the stealth level. Min-soo explained calmly. Leveling up any skill depended on proficiency. When Hua Young asked what that meant, Min-soo described it as understanding and skillful application. So, just using a skill repeatedly wasn't enough. Mastery required knowing why it worked. Hua Young tilted his head. So if I keep using it, it'll improve on its own? Min-soo replied that skills had a point system tied to usage and efficiency. Hua Young thought briefly about possession points. Then the system responded. The level of proficiency in the 10th level strength skill had increased. He understood. Every meaningful action added a proficiency point. The realization clicked. Regressors already knew which actions gave proficiency. He, however, was walking blind. The city lights glittered, above them like cold stars. Ahead, a portal glowed blue, its dialogue hovering in the air. Dungeon type, Goblin and Orc. Goblin count, 11. Orc count, 8. Max players, 4. Difficulty D. There were countless gates like this across the world, weak, repetitive, often left untouched for beginners. Hua Young and Min-soo descended the stone stairs toward the red portal. To him, this dungeon was an experiment ground. Goblins were weak, barely able to scratch him, perfect for testing limits. A low growl echoed ahead. An orc, massive and furious, emerged from the shadows. Hua Young wondered what kind of action would impress whoever built this twisted system. He activated stealth. His body vanished. The orc looked around in confusion. Then he tried armor. His skin darkened, turning visible again. He frowned. The two couldn't be used simultaneously. Maybe the combination was too powerful. He reactivated stealth, dagger glinting faintly in his invisible grip. Blue aura wrapped around him as he launched off the ground and struck from behind, the blade sinking deep into the orc's neck. The system informed Hua Young that the proficiency of his first-level stealth skill had increased. He had changed the future and received 1 extra point. The orc hit the ground with a heavy thud. Hovering momentarily above the fallen creature, Hua Young murmured, almost amused. "That simple?" Min Su approached, eyeing the corpse still twitching on the floor. Hua Young retrieved his dagger from the orc's neck. The system repeated the message. Proficiency increased, future altered, 1 extra point awarded, stealth, level 2 unlocked. All objects in contact with the user now become invisible. Duration scales with mana. A red aura faintly shimmered around him as he exhaled. "Done." He turned to Min Su. "Where's the General Guild headquarters?" "Gangnam Cheongdam District," Min Su replied. Hua Young smirked. "Figures. Must be loaded." The afternoon sun glared over a high-rise building, Gangnam District, Cheongdam. Invisible, Hua Young trailed 2 men walking toward a row of expensive sports cars. The blue-haired one grumbled. "Because of that Hua Young guy, we're always left with nothing." The blonde shrugged. "He's saving the world. Just pretend to be useful and keep collecting your paycheck. If anyone heard you say that, you'd be fired." They passed a security checkpoint. The guard greeted them and scanned their cards. As the door opened, Hua Young slipped in behind them unnoticed. The blue-haired one paused suddenly, eyes widening. The guard asked what was wrong. "Nothing. Thought I saw something." Hua Young thought grimly. That was close. Inside, a sign marked the layout. 1F, lobby. 2F, strategy block. 3 degrees Fahrenheit, conference hall. An announcement played through the speakers. "The morning meeting begins at 9:30. All officials report to the conference room." Hua Young leaned against the elevator wall, thinking. Now he knew exactly where to go. Later the conference began. "Today is January 14th. The meeting is in session," the man at the podium declared. Arms folded, Hua Young scanned the crowd, faces he'd likely see again. He started memorizing them. In one corner, a brown-haired armored man spoke quietly to a red-haired colleague. "The chief isn't here. He's at the level 23 dungeon. Again? He's overdoing it." Nearby, a light brown-haired man muttered that the leader must be exhausted, but no one could accompany him anyway. A man with medium-length dark hair murmured, "The day our leader obtains the Eye of God is near." Hua Young's eyes narrowed at that phrase. Eye of God. A blonde cleared his throat, asking about training. The man with blue eyes crossed his arms. "Nothing to prepare, just stay alert." The man in the green hood leaned forward, asking if everything was fine. The one with piercing blue eyes gave a short nod, replying that they needed to keep a close watch on Li Hua Young. The younger member at the table rolled his eyes, muttering that Hua Young's name came up in every single meeting they held, as if saying it out loud might finally summon him. The man with gray hair chuckled bitterly, pointing out that the reason his name kept surfacing was simple: they still couldn't catch him. His tone sharpened when he asked if anyone actually knew where Hua Young was hiding. That speaker was Junghan Sung, vice head of the General Guild, the type who looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days and blamed it all on one man. He slammed his hand lightly on the table, questioning how they planned to capture someone when they couldn't even find him. Meanwhile, Hua Young, the very ghost haunting their meetings, was already there. He smiled faintly, as if the entire conversation was free entertainment. Back at the table, Junghan Sung set his glass down with a deliberate clink that cut through the tension. He reminded them that they had already granted Hua Young stealth and, in doing so, had practically sacrificed their best dagger. Then he asked with visible irritation if anyone had considered what might happen if Hua Young obtained the Eye of God as well. From the stage, another guild member responded, voice steady but cautious. They admitted that Hua Young's current location remained unknown, but they were certain he would appear at the designated site to claim the eye. Until then, they urged everyone to remain patient, a word that clearly didn't sit well with Junghan Sung. Junghan Sung slammed the papers onto the table, demanding to know how Li Huayang had become this strong and how they were supposed to catch him without answers. On the papers was a photo of Huayang, middle finger raised under the title. Strength, 1033, the appearance of God. Han Sung asked if anyone really believed it. Rubbing his head, he said there was no confirmation. Huayang probably did it to scare the hunters. He added that Huayang wasn't one for tricks, he preferred direct fights. Then he told the man on stage to explain the plan. The speaker slammed his own papers down, saying they recorded everything Huayang did in his previous life. On April 17th, in the level 34 Black Ogre dungeon, he obtained the Eye of God. Huayang listened quietly, arms folded. The man continued, 4 players died that day. He asked for them to raise their hands. Han Woo-sung, Li Yujin, Park Kwang-ho, and Go Sang-hyun did. Yujin said they'd been sent to the dungeon for a rare skill. Huayang was already there, still unknown back then. They told him to move aside. Park Kwang-ho said it with contempt. Huayang only looked at them once. That was enough. Go Sang-hyun said he'd been angry. Park Kwang-ho admitted he was terrified. Yujin explained their group's info on the dungeon helped the general guild after regression. Huayang glanced at the documents. Every gate, every weakness, every step of his past was written there. You changed the future and gained 1 extra point. The system message flashed. He smiled. Han Sung leaned forward, asking what they wanted. Yujin said they'd heard the head was going alone and wanted to join. She vowed they'd kill Huayang this time and bring back the Eye of God. Han Sung liked her resolve and asked for their plan. Yujin said they'd use the SA2 ogre. The room exploded. Someone shouted that SA2 was banned by the World Association. Yujin replied that without it they couldn't stop Huayang. The black ogres would handle him. Park Kwang-ho agreed. They'd bring the eye back. Far away, Huayang sent a short message, amused. He wondered if they wanted to die again. Kim Min-soo looked at his phone in disbelief. Huayang's next message read, "Find everything about SA2. There's no end to human imagination. Even when monsters attempted to ravage the world, humans continue to research monster materials in pursuit of creating things that could assist humanity. The skin and organs of monsters were rare items not previously available on Earth. These items could be harder than iron yet still light. Fuel could be produced that was better than coal. Some items were emblazoned with meticulous designs. All of these items were used to develop technology for mankind, though not all of the technology was developed for the benefit of mankind. One such example would be SA2. Min-soo replied. He asked Wei-yun where he heard about SA2. It's a very dangerous drug that the World Player Association banned. Wei-yun texted, asking how he used it. Min-soo told him it amplifies the abilities of a monster. An experiment was done on a goblin that was given SA2, and it took down a level 20 golden leopard. Wei-yun deemed it interesting. Still in stealth, he asked what it was used for and why there was a need to make monsters stronger. Min-soo replied that it's a military weapon. They would release SA2 into an enemy country to make the monsters destroy that country. It's kind of the same concept as doping for humans. Thanks to it, players and soldiers alike died to monsters that were supposed to be weaker than them. Wei-yun thought about it. He deemed it to be one effective drug. His attention was drawn to their conversation again, as the girl said that the effect of the SA2 drug lasts for 24 hours. On that day, when Li Huiyun comes to the gate, they will administer SA2 into the Black Ogres beforehand. The Black Ogres will then be as strong as level 100 monsters. So once Huiyun is killed by the monsters, they will steal his skills and items, and then retrieve the Eye of God. That's the plan. The man agreed but told them all that they need to keep quiet about the plan. Their guild would be done for if people found out they used SA2, but the Eye of God is that important of a skill. Their master is currently clearing a level 23 gate, and they all need to level up as well. The Black Ogres are level 33, and the company will support all of them in every way possible so that they can level up quickly. The girl exhaled in relief, then thanked him. But then, Huiyun got a message that stealth would soon deactivate from lack of mana, 2 minutes left. Although he applied more bonus points to mana before entering the building, he never expected the message to pop up again. He then decided to apply his remaining bonus points to mana increasing it by 243%. As a result of the increase, the girl noticed something. She told them that something was odd. The flow of mana had just changed. She then asked if anyone had just used a skill or applied bonus points to their mana since the flow suddenly shifted. The guy beside her asked what she meant and why someone would use a skill during the meeting. Huayun never expected such a situation, but then, a guy opened the door and announced that their master had arrived. They all stood up to welcome him. The guy then told her that the mana change must have been because she sensed their master's mana. Because it's so powerful, the flow must have changed as he walked toward them. She hesitated, saying the flow was too strong even for their master. The vice told her sharply to stop. As Choi Chulsong walked in, he told them all that it's good to see them there. Huayun noticed how strong Chulsong was, as the air turned cold once he arrived. With a slight smile, Chulsong told them, "There's no need to act frantically. They should take it easy." The vice then asked Chulsong about the SA2. Chulsong thought about it and asked them if that wasn't the only way to kill Huayun. Though Huayun having 1033 strength stat doesn't make sense, he isn't the type to lie. Although 1033 is indeed an impossible number at this stage. Chulsong thought about something, then told them all to head out for a moment. They did as instructed, and even Huayun left the room, wanting to see Chulsong at the Black Ogre dungeon. He didn't want to focus on Chulsong now since there was no reason to. What mattered more were those papers. Those records contained important information about his past skills and items. He then followed someone going to the record archive. The guy scanned his retina and the door opened. Thanks to Huayun's 700 concentration stat, it wasn't hard to silence the sound of his footsteps. There would have to be a player with a concentration higher than 700 to detect him. But that wasn't realistically possible. He then spoke gently behind the guy. "It seems there's only the two of us here now." The guy immediately turned back, looking all surprised. But he was knocked out before he could react. Minutes later, Huayun lit his spark while reading the file containing his record, Project Huayun. It was ridiculously thick. He was seated while the guy was tied down on the ground, mouth sealed by blue monkey fur. It emits very harmful fumes when burned. Huayun went through the files and was impressed to see they wrote the events like a movie script. There was also detailed information on the players he killed in the file. There was a list of items and skills along with the monsters they came from, which was really great. From the file, he could see that he possessed a body mysterious change technique in the future. Specifically, after he cleared the level 245 dungeon, his darkened body changed into a blurry figure and destroyed anything it passed by. Though there was no other description, it was definitely a legendary grade skill. People had never seen any other skill with such power. Players referred to that form of his as Li Huayun's shadow and gave him the nickname Shadow of Death. Since everyone regressed, the guild members now wanted the mysterious legendary grade skill to go to their guild master, Choi Chulsong. That was the last paragraph of the records regarding Huayun's past and future. He looked around and realized they were probably looking at a copy. He then asked the guy where the original was. He smashed a system, then smoke caused the fire sprinkler to activate and the fire alarm to start ringing. This all caused the future to change, earning him 1 point each for every change. Sometime later, after Huayun destroyed the supercomputer that contained all the data for the General Guild, system messages continued to pop up before him. The number of bonus points he received showed just how much the General Guild had affected the world. He realized he had affected the future that much just by destroying the archive. Now he had 1,021 bonus points. After his trip to the General Guild, he was greeted with an unbelievable amount of bonus points that he had never received before. It was as if it foreshadowed the effect Huayun's new information would have on the future, but for now, he prioritized getting stronger. He then applied all his bonus stats, 2,054, to strength, increasing his strength by 2,054. He told Minsu that they didn't know how strong the SA2 would make the monsters. Minsu was surprised he put 2,000 into strength. Huayun asked him how much he had learned about SA2. Minsu replied that he found more information than what he had already sent through text. The drug was originally developed for skills and items. Humans thought that the dungeon's difficulty would automatically increase if the monsters became stronger, so they actually tried to mess with the game's system. Huayun asked if it was because dungeons drop better stuff when the difficulty is higher, They tried to increase the dungeon difficulty by making the monsters stronger. Minsu replied yes, but the game system didn't respond based on the changes from the drug's use. Hwayun sighed. He deemed the situation to be a pain in the ass. Since they would be administering SA2 on the black ogres, he asked how strong they would become. Would they be too strong for him to kill? Minsu told him they should test it out on the goblin over there. He carried the SA2 in his hand and threw it at the goblin, which penetrated its skin. The goblin immediately went berserk and charged at Minsu. Minsu wasn't able to react in time due to its increased speed, but Hwayun stopped it and squeezed its head into paste. Sometime later, while moving in the dungeon alone, a level 27 golden tooth zombie came to attack him. He covered his nose since the rotten smell was making it hard for him to focus. Not to mention, their attack speed was similar to the blue monkeys. With iron jaws and teeth that could break anything, along with their high speed and foul smell, they were difficult opponents. He then punched the skull of one of the zombies. This action changed the future, giving him 1 bonus point, but he realized that breaking their skulls and destroying their organs wasn't enough to take them down. He concluded that he would need to behead them to stop them. He activated stealth and brought out his dagger, swiftly taking them all down in 1 strike each. But he was disappointed to see that the zombies gave no experience, even though his bonus points kept increasing for every action. Now, the last zombie came to attack him from behind, but he beheaded it in 1 strike. Then he got a message saying that all of the monsters in the dungeon had died, and the gate would now close in 3 minutes. But as he was about to leave, he got another message. The skill proficiency of Butterfly Effect level 1 had increased, and he should be aware that his actions were greatly altering the future. He was surprised. He wondered if the proficiency point was gained from killing all the monsters in the dungeon and destroying the gate. Then he questioned what exactly the system was trying to say. Hwayun came out of the dungeon while Minsu was waiting for him outside. Hwayun asked him if he still had questions left. Since he reset, he wouldn't really need it. Minsu was surprised by the question. He told Hwayun that he indeed still had 2 questions left. Hwayun requested for him to ask about skill proficiency next. Minsu didn't say much, though it felt like a waste of a question, but he could do that. Hwayun told him to ask what the proficiency point for the skill Butterfly Effect is. Minsu asked the exact question, "What's the proficiency point for Butterfly Effect?" The system told him to wait. He told Hwayun that he had asked the question and that Hwayun had to pay him back for it. Hwayun replied, "Okay." Minsu was surprised by the reply he saw, so he told Hwayun that he just wasted a question. The system said it was unable to find the skill Butterfly Effect, so he asked Hwayun if he had a skill that doesn't exist in this world, like a skill that isn't in the game at all, something like an illegal program or a bug. Hwayun didn't reply. He told him to be quiet, that he was thinking. But then, to their surprise, they got a message saying that a special dungeon had been unlocked, Special Dungeon Level 1. Maximum number of players, 1. Dungeon difficulty, S. Minsu was shocked and asked what the hell that was. Hwayun replied that he didn't know either. He was about to ask him the same thing. Hwayun then received a message telling him that he had received over 4,000 points through the skill Butterfly Effect. Because of that, a special dungeon had appeared. Hwayun was speechless for a moment. He then told Minsu to ask about it again. Minsu couldn't believe his ears. He told Hwayun that doing that would just waste another question. Whether it's some god or alien, the guys that made the game aren't that nice, he said. I just asked about something that doesn't exist, and they said they don't know. Hwayun replied, yeah, they said they couldn't find it, but the special dungeon is right in front of our eyes. We're not asking about something special or whatever, we're only asking what the thing in front of us is. Another message then appeared, informing them that the gate to the special dungeon would close in 30 seconds. They were both surprised to see that a gate could close on its own since such a thing had never happened before. Hwayun told him he'd head in first, and that Minsu should just ask what the special dungeon is. Minsu replied okay. He then asked the system what the gate in front of them was. The question was received, the answer was searched, and the response was given. A special gate opens when a single player or small group of players gains a vast difference in ability from an average player. The god that created the game said it was to maintain the balance of the game. When you clear a special gate, a special skill is given. They said it's also a balance adjustment. So when a special gate opens, It means an unstoppable player has been found, and the special gate was made to create an opponent that can stop that player. Any player can enter the special gate, and anyone can clear it. Therefore, anyone can gain the special skill and other rewards from the dungeon. From all those replies, Minsu could see that the boss was the reason the special gate formed, all in order to stop him. The system then informed him that he had used all of his questions, but the answer related to the special gate would continue. The player that caused the current special gate to form is named Li Huayun. The system then told Minsu that he could also surpass Huayun by entering the dungeon. Minsu was shocked by the last sentence. He felt like the system was messing with him. Another reply appeared, telling him that the system couldn't answer his earlier question because the information regarding specials was patched a moment ago. Minsu was surprised. He then told the system to give him back his question, since it was the system's fault that he wasted one. The system didn't reply. Though he scolded it, there was still no response. He sighed and decided to sort out his thoughts. From the message, a special gate opens when one or a few players get too strong, and within it is a special skill that can help others oppose the strong players in order to maintain the balance among them. He sighed again, deeming it all as some bullshit. But one more surprising thing was that the boss was about to get another special skill. Inside the dungeon, Huayun was walking, saying to himself that since the dungeon's difficulty is S, it means he could at least gain a unique class skill. He paused as he saw someone in front of him. A goblin. The goblin grinned, happy to see a human. He spoke, telling Huayun that he had been waiting for this day. Huayun was surprised it could talk, but what was more surprising was that the goblin was level 200, the level 1 guardian of the special dungeon. The goblin grinned evilly and asked Huayun if he was surprised by his level. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll kill you quickly and painlessly." He then shot a fire spell at Huayun. It was a direct hit. The explosion intense. The goblin thought he had won, but it was surprised to see that Huayun wasn't dead. Huayun received a message that his armor had met its limit. The skill proficiency of armor level 1 has increased. The continuous damage from the fire caused Huayun's armor to reach its limit, increasing the skill proficiency by 1 multiple times. Huayun smiled. He never expected armor proficiency to increase when it receives damage higher than it could defend against. He got another message that armor level 1 has been leveled up to armor level 2. Now, the armor emits shockwave, defending and attacking continuously. It has a 30% chance of emitting shockwave after impact. Huayun had no idea what the new feature shockwave is. He looked up at the goblin who was levitating midair. The goblin deemed the situation interesting. He told Huayun that he's stronger than he thought. He then went again with flames to attack Huayun. Huayun stretched out his hand and activated Petrify. The goblin froze midair and fell straight to the ground, something it never expected. The goblin couldn't believe its eyes. Huayun then appeared and grabbed its head to smash its skull, but the goblin slapped his hand away. Huayun was surprised to see the goblin's skull didn't break. Then the two leapt backward. The goblin laughed, saying it almost died there. It then activated its clone. Each of them spoke, "This is fun, that's a strong human, this is very fun indeed." And so, they decided to see how long Huayun would last. They surrounded him and shot spells at him. He tried defending against them, but then another goblin went for a sneak attack. Unfazed, he blocked the strike with his hand and immediately went for a counterattack with a punch, plus he activated Shockwave. The goblin clone he punched was defeated, while the others were pushed to the ground. They were surprised, they had no idea what the hell was wrong with the human. Swiftly, Huayun went to attack another clone, punching it straight to the ground. The impact was intense. The clone's teeth broke, and it coughed out blood. The other clones decided to run away from the frightening human, but Huayun chased after them. With his bonus stat points 1,432, he decided to put them all into strength. Now his strength is 3,486. He increased his speed and punched the goblins to paste, the impact domineering. The real body looked around in surprise, but before it knew it, Huayun appeared behind him and pierced his throat. He defeated the goblin and leveled up 5 times. He never expected such level ups, but it's because he killed a high-level monster. He then got a message that all of the monsters in the dungeon have been defeated. The gate will now close in 3 minutes. and since he has defeated the level 200 special guardian, he would be awarded a special skill. The skill he obtained is Eye of Reversal, level 1. It can read the memories of a player. However, the player using the skill cannot read the memories of a player at a higher level than them. Skill cooldown time is 24 hours. Huayun never expected such a skill. Strong players in the past are more likely to be stronger in the present. Players that had more items and skills were stronger, and cleared many more dungeons to become so. Even after losing everything and restarting, they had information that put them ahead of others. But the Eye of Reversal skill will allow him to bridge the gap in their difference in knowledge. He deemed the skill to be incredible. Minsu asked if he have another special skill now. Can he tell him what it is? Huayun decided to try it on Minsu. It'll be easier to explain that way. He then used the Eye of Reversal on Minsu, level 7, recalling his memories. The system told him to select the memory he would like to see. Huayun chose the time when they were in the supermarket. The memory then began playing. He was surprised since it was like a 50-inch screen TV. The system even provided pause, reverse, and fast-forward features like it's some movie. He saw through all the memories from the beginning of the game. He smiled and told Minsu that he never expected him to think that he was the one going to be the person to kill all the monsters. He then told Minsu they should do it. They should make it happen. They'll kill all of the monsters and rule the world. He then decided to see the memories from 10 seconds ago. Minsu really adored him, even calling Huayun my lord. Huayun laughed and asked Minsu why he would call him my lord. Minsu shyly told him to cut that part out. Sometime later, they posted that they had cleared the level 28 Golden Tooth zombie dungeon. Their post really exploded. Some were against him clearing the dungeons too fast while some were in support of him. Huayun was reading through all the messages. He thought to himself that even though there was a debate about his clearing speed, he still needed to upload his clear times on the game. The official ranking that the government and the world associations created was based on the records from the gate. Once he's in the top 10, he can be excused from the law again. He'd even have a higher position than their country's president, and then there wouldn't be a tax on the income he makes. The benefits were just that much, but there's something else he specifically wanted from that list, which is the final dungeon. Huayun was positive that the one who would gain the wealth and fame to rule the world would be someone that entered the final dungeon. Well, he just needed to finish the game as fast as possible. Minsu then worriedly called his name and showed him Poison Choi Cholsong's post. He already cleared the level 9 poisonous spider dungeon. Huayun asked Minsu, "What's wrong with that bastard? Is such a thing supposed to be normal?" Minsu replied, "No, it's impossible. Unless Choi Cholsong also has some new ability." Huayun thought about it, then commented, saying, "One thing certain though, that Choi Cholsong is gunning for the Eye of God. They'll meet soon enough in the Black Ogre dungeon." Minsu asked what they should do. It looks like they're going to need to fight. Huayun told him not to worry. Fighting is not just a one-sided thing, it means there's a back and forth. Sometime later, in the Dark Horn Hogs level 30 dungeon, Huayun was breathing heavily as he fought against the Dark Horn Hogs. They groaned at him, ready to kill him. Huayun knew too well that he won't be okay if he gets hit by their horns. It's a valuable item. He can tell just from looking at it that many players were sacrificed to the hogs in the past. And he's already running out of mana since the mana consumption for Eye of Reversal is immense. He used it too much on Minsu. He then allocated his 112 bonus stat points to his mana, increasing it to 453. Now, he decided to try fighting again. He then charged out to confront the hogs. Before the two could collide, Huayun activated armor. Then bang, they collided. He was surprised to see their horns didn't break from that impact, so he became even more interested in them, understanding why they were so expensive. The hogs realized they were screwed. Huayun pinned them down and pierced them with his dagger of destruction, a dagger that could lead both the enemy and the wielder to destruction. Skills could be applied to the dagger. He cut off the horn of one hog, the other one was shaking in fear as it saw what happened to the first. Huayun told the hog that it was quite disappointing. It was level 30, so it should live up to it. The hog had no choice but to drown in fear. Huayun's actions changed the future, giving him 1 bonus point. The Dark Horn Hog's horn was one of the materials that could be used to create a legendary item. He was satisfied with the horn since it would bring a good price. The only option he had was to sell it, since he had no need for it to craft an item when he already had a solid weapon. He then got a message that all of the monsters in the dungeon had been defeated and that the gate would close in 3 minutes. He stepped out of the cage, leaving the hogs on the ground. Sometime later, Hwa-yoon was going through his phone. He was surprised. Though he didn't know what was going on, he deemed that bastard Choi Chul-song to be seriously annoying. He then asked Min-soo how many level 32 gates there were around their area. Min-soo replied that there were 2 gates in South Korea. Hwa-yoon deduced that Chul-song would definitely be at one of the 2 dungeons. Instead, he might just wait at a level 33 gate for him to clear a level 32 dungeon, so he told Min-soo they should go where the level 33 gate would spawn. Min-soo was surprised. He asked Hwa-yoon if he was playing mind games because between Chul-song and him, one of the 2 needed to destroy the level 32 gate. But if both of them didn't go to the level 32 gate, and instead waited in front of the level 33 gate, he paused. They were both shocked to see that Chul-song had already cleared the level 32 gargoyle dungeon, so they needed to hurry. Now, at a dungeon entrance, Chul-song and his men were standing at the gate. One of the guys asked if the SA2 would be meaningless if Hwa-yoon's strength really was 1,000. The girl shrugged, asking if they really thought it was possible for Hwa-yoon's strength to be over 1,000. It was just a strategy to make people like him scared. The guy told her to shut up. He didn't say he was scared. Another man then asked Chul-song if he also thought the SA2 would work against Hwa-yoon, who could kill monsters with just a flick. What if he really does have over 1,000 strength? Smoking, Chul-song told him it was useless even if he did. The guy asked if he also thought Hwa-yoon lied about his stats. Chul-song replied that what he meant was, he wouldn't be the one fighting Hwa-yoon. The man asked again, if Lee Hwa-yoon wasn't lying and really had over 1,000 strength, then he might actually be able to take on the black ogres administered with SA2. Chul-song told him they should all know Hwa-yoon wouldn't make up dumb lies like that. It sounded impossible, but they just needed to believe it was true. Even if he was that strong, it would still be difficult for him to fight 10 black ogres under the effect of SA2, because once SA2 was administered to monsters, all of their stats were multiplied by 20 for the next 24 hours. And as for those black ogres, if they became 20 times stronger, not even Hwa-yoon could do anything, so they'll kill him and steal his items without getting blood on their hands, Chul-song said. Now, he told them all to get the job done as they walked into the gate. They arrived inside, and Chul-song immediately told his men to stop when he saw a group of ogres ahead. He hid behind a wall, unlocked the SA-2 gas, and left it on the ground for the ogres to inhale. Within 1 minute, all the ogres went berserk. Chul-song grinned. He told his team that Hwa-yoon would be there in a couple of hours, so they would stay out of sight until tomorrow when the SA2 wore off, and then they would collect his corpse. Sometime later, Min-soo and Hwa-yoon arrived at the dungeon entrance. It was so quiet that it was obvious the SA2 had already been used. He then got a message that he had changed the future and received 1 bonus point. He saw footsteps at the entrance and told Min-soo that it was obvious they had already been there. "Why are they so sloppy? I thought they were Korea's #1 guild," he said. Min-soo worriedly suggested they should return later since the black ogres were under the effect of SA2, which would last for 24 hours. Hwa-yoon told him not to worry. They already knew the plan, so for now, they needed to follow it. If they did something different, they could end up making a new plan. He then applied all his bonus points to stamina. This action changed the future. Before entering, he told Min-soo they might be hiding somewhere around, so for now, he should go hide somewhere since his face had now been revealed to the general guild. Min-soo agreed and decided to call Hwa-yoon when he got out. Behind them, a cricket was being used to spy on Hwa-yoon as he entered the gate. Seeing that he had entered the gate, the monitoring leader told his men to keep the camera at the entrance of the gate. The estimated time that he could survive was about 3 hours, so even if he got out alive, he wouldn't be in prime condition. The guy grinned and told his underling to report to Chul-song that Hwa-yoon had entered the gate. They all smiled since their plan was going as intended. Hwa-yoon covered his nose as he entered the dungeon. The SA2 gas smell was disgusting. He looked around while in his stealth state, but then his heart skipped a beat. He quickly looked behind him and smiled, as he never expected the ogres to have changed entirely. They were now like actual monsters. To his surprise, one of the ogres struck at him, but he was fast enough to dodge it. What was more surprising was that, even though he was using stealth, they were still able to notice his presence. He paused as he realized it was because the senses of the black ogres had multiplied after inhaling the SA2. The black ogre roared, its energy tremendous, and it raised its axe, ready to strike at Huayun. Huayun immediately activated armor and swiftly dodged the ogre's axe. He was surprised, though. He never expected the ogre to throw its weapon. Pissed, he decided to make that ogre his first target. He charged at it and activated Petrify. He stunned the ogre and swiftly cut its leg. Though it wasn't fatal, he then went for another strike at its waist. He grinned at how easy it was. Another ogre charged at him. He blocked the attack with his armored body, but the impact sent him flying. He deemed the ogre's strength to be quite absurd. The ogre came at him again with its axe and struck. Huayun leapt backward to dodge it, but the ogres didn't give him time to land or catch his breath. They all threw their axes at him. Huayun was fast enough to dodge them. He looked at the axes, knowing such an attack wouldn't work on him. He picked one up. It would definitely work against them. The black ogre axe was a weapon that black ogres used. It gave the wielder an additional attack power of 164, additional strength of 47, with a level requirement of 32 and strength of 100. The ogres were surprised at the incoming axe that Huayun threw at them. But one of them was unable to react fast enough, and its head got chopped off. The black ogres became angry at their comrade's death. Huayun didn't give a shit about their anger. He picked up another axe and told them they should fight again one at a time. Huayun immediately went and grabbed one of the ogre's hands. At the same time, he applied all his bonus points to strength, increasing it to 4,307. He squeezed tightly, forcing the ogre to scream in pain. His actions changed the future. The ogre, panting and trying to regain feeling in its hand, freed itself from Huayun's grab. It then sent a fast left jab at Huayun, which Huayun dodged, now grabbing its leg tightly, squeezing and making the ogre scream in pain. The ogre ended up falling to its knees as the bones in that leg shattered. Huayun, gaze sharp, stared intently at the ogre that was in pain. But he refused to kill it since it still has its use, because if it were to die the gate would close, so he told it to hang in there. He just slit its throat slightly, making it survive long enough before dying. Now he has killed 9 of the ogres, with one barely hanging in, but he still doesn't know which one of them has the Eye of God yet. So he decided he needed to call Choi Chulsong and the General Guild. Sometime later, he took down the last of the ogres that had just respawned, brutally massacring them. He stepped out of the gate and asked Chulsong if he's watching. He grinned, telling him that the plan wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. So he should hurry up and come over since their plan has failed. He'd be waiting inside for them. He then stepped into the gate again. They all saw the broadcast of his speech. They were speechless and surprised, but either way they had to report what happened to Chulsong. He told his underling to split the screen. They needed to contact their master, and so they called Chulsong, telling him that the worst-case scenario had happened. Chulsong asked what he meant. Did Huayun throw the black ogre heads outside the dungeon or something? The man replied yes. Hearing this, Chulsong became pissed, so he angrily asked the man about the poison that could kill Huayun. The man told him it's still in production. Chulsong asked if everyone in the control room was listening to him right then. The man replied, "Yes sir, everyone is listening." Chulsong then instructed them to kill the control administrator. The man was surprised by this command, but before he could react, a bullet swarmed through his brain and he was shot dead. Chulsong then told them all to listen carefully. From now on, all who prove useless shall die. He then gave them a new order: make an enhancer that can penetrate Huayun's armor in under 3 hours. They all replied, "Yes, sir." Now in his office, Chulsong angrily smashed his table with the bottle in his hand, popping out black liquid, saying he needed a damn poison that can kill Huayun, and he needed it now. The reason Choi Chulsong was able to level up so quickly while Huayun cleared the gates was because of the black ogre poison enhancer. In the previous timelines, Chulsong's main skill was called poison. This skill enabled him to release lethal poison from his body, which brought about his title as the Poison King. Now he brought with him the future's technology that let him overcome his limits. So the second he drank the enhancer, he could also create the poison within his body to pinpoint a monster's weakness. But Choi Chulsong's current predicament was that he had been unable to find a poison that could affect Huayun's armor skill. He cleaned his hand while telling the 4 people present to head out. They can't just let Huayun take the Eye of God, so they all have 2 hours. and if they happened to get captured by Huayun, they should kill themselves. The four of them were shocked by this command. It was a suicide mission. Cholsong grinned. He told them not to allow Huayun to retrieve any information from them. They can't let him figure out their plan. If they succeed, he then swore to make all of them heroes that will go down in history. Now, in the gate, Huayun smiled as another set of black ogres spawned again. He deemed it to be cute. One of them charged at him, but he leapt backwards to dodge, saying to himself that if he killed them, new ones would spawn again. At this point, it is starting to just feel like chores, so he decided to try not to kill them all. He clenched his fist, then punched the ogre that attacked him, a one-hit kill. He smiled at how hard it was to control his hand, so he decided to ignore the other ogres. He then got a message that the maximum number of players had entered the dungeon. He smiled evilly as his prey finally arrived. He looked back. He never expected them to arrive so quickly. The four were surprised to see the scene before them. Chills ran down their spines. One of the guys whispered from behind, telling the others that they're only supposed to stall for 2 hours and that their master will come save them and kill the bastard Huayun. Huayun, with his thick killing aura and domineering tone, said to them that it seems like they came with bad intentions. The guy deemed the situation to be wrong. Huayun didn't even have a single wound. The girl, frightened, asked how that was possible. The guy scolded her, telling her to stop fearing and get ready to fight. They won't die like last time, they just need to endure for 2 hours. Seeing the sharp glare from Huayun, the girl panicked and decided to run out of the gate. But Huayun swiftly appeared in front of her and told her it won't be good if she ran. He then grabbed her by the throat and killed her. His actions changed the future. The remaining 3 couldn't believe their eyes. Huayun told them it would be more humane to kill her painlessly rather than letting her be killed by Cholsong. The 3 gritted their teeth in fear. One of them told the others to calm down. They could hold him off. They could become heroes. In just 2 hours, they could become part of the General Guild's history. Before he could finish his bravado speech, Huayun swiftly appeared before him, took down the other 2, and told the guy to just quit. He activated Eye of Reversal, recalling the memories of the guy, Park Gwangho. From the memories he could see something about the poison enhancer. The memories showed Cholsong taking the poison enhancer, which he deemed to be very strong after usage. Huayun thought about it. He then squeezed the guy's neck tightly, asking what those enhancers were. The guy refused to talk, but Huayun told him not to play games with him since his neck could shatter if he used even a little more strength. The guy refused to talk at first, but he gave in, telling Huayun that it's a liquid which changes Cholsong's poison based on each monster. Hearing that, Huayun deemed the pieces of information he had to now make sense. He grinned at how incredible it is to create an enhancer that changes his poison's limitations into a deadly weapon. He then decided to continue watching. From the memories, Cholsong was asking about the enhancer that could penetrate Huayun's armor. Seeing that particular memory, he laughed, since he just discovered they were creating an enhancer that could penetrate his armor. In addition, he realized Cholsong's poison couldn't melt his armor. Now, he decided to check if the guy knew where the Eye of God was in his previous life. He played the memories at that time. The guy told Huayun to piss off. Huayun asked why he should do that. The guy said it's because the gate is owned by the General Guild. They'll let him leave alive if he acts nice enough. Then, within seconds, the future Huayun did something that the present Huayun never expected or thought he could do. He was consecutively switching back and forth between stealth and armor. Though he got nothing about the Eye of God, he decided to test out the skill the future him used. He performed the skill, then asked the guy why Cholsong wasn't with them. The guy didn't reply, so Huayun decided to end his life by exploding his throat. He smiled, eager to see Cholsong's memories. He looked behind him. Another batch of black ogres had spawned, but he took them down within minutes. He began searching the corpses, and that's when he noticed something hard. He pierced his hand into the black ogre's body. That was when he saw it. The Eye of God. It is able to see the status page and inventory of the selected player or monster. However, the player using the skill must be at a higher level than the targeted player or monster. It will lead him through the darkness of the void. He had no idea what it meant by darkness of the void, but he was happy since it was time to take care of Cholsong. Sometime later, the people of the General Guild analyzed Huayun's last video to them. The guy in white told them there's nothing to analyze. Huayun's power is already beyond what they can handle. It was honestly just as he expected. The guy in black argued, asking the man if he predicted such a thing would happen. Then why is he just saying that now? Why is he just saying they're a player capable of killing a monster with SA2? The man in white replied, saying he expected that Huayun wouldn't die that easily. Even if the black ogre is administered with SA2, they're still only monsters. The guy in black told him it's not over yet. The black ogre gate is still open. I wonder why the gate's still open, the man in white commented. He's obviously waiting for his prey. That bastard isn't satisfied with just the eye of God. The man in black finally realized that Huayun is waiting for their master. Their master is prey to him. But then they were surprised as the door opened and their master came in with a gloomy expression. He was pissed. He asked where the enhancer is. It's been 3 hours now. The man in white immediately apologized and told Cholsong that they must retreat. The development stage is currently complete, and the final product will be ready in 3 days. Angry, and with a murderous expression, he told the man that if Huayun takes the unique class skill from the level 51 Golem Gate, they will never be able to defeat him. The man pleaded, saying they will bet their lives on it. Cholsong asked him if it's certain he'll be able to take Huayun's head in 3 days. The man replied yes. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone sat tight in their seats, knowing their heads will roll at the slightest mistake. Speechless for a moment, Cholsong grabbed the man's head. He activated his poison and told them that he warned them he'd kill anyone who's useless. Don't you know that 3 days is too long? He said. His death would be for the ones who went into the Black Ogre dungeon on his behalf. The poison penetrated the man and melted his skull, leading to his death. He then told the others to add extra security in the laboratory that's making the poison enhancer for Huayun. They should station all players there. They will kill Huayun at the level 51 Golem dungeon, he said, and they shall steal everything he has and will have. Now, inside the gate, after waiting for a while, Huayun realized that Cholsong is not coming. It must mean that the enhancer isn't ready. He thought about it. In order to kill Cholsong, one method would be to invade the General Guild headquarters and annihilate the entire guild, including all of the players in it. But not only would that method take a lot of work, it wouldn't be very beneficial in the long run either. Instead, it would be better to just kill the head of the organization, Choi Cholsong, and then use the guild's large influence over the country to his advantage. According to the records the General Guild had on Huayun's past life, their next target would be the level 51 Silver Armor unique skill. The unique class skills and items that Huayun collected were one of a kind. In Choi Cholsong's perspective, Huayun regaining those skills and items meant that he'd once again become a powerful player, so they'd rather die than have that happen again. He said to himself that Choi Cholsong must be planning to clear the level 51 Silver Armor dungeon as well as create a poison enhancer capable of killing him. That much is obvious. Cholsong will do anything he can to develop a poison enhancer that can kill him, so he decided his next course of action will be gaining what's needed to prevent that from happening. He activated stealth and went out of the gate since they're probably watching him even now. Sometime later, he appeared behind Minsu, scaring the shit out of him. Minsu told him that the factory that makes the enhancer is in Gyeonggi-do Paju. He figured it out by tracking the vehicles under the General Guild. Huayun used the eyes of God and checked Minsu's status window. He looked through it and told Minsu to be careful. You'll probably get offed by just breathing the same air as me at this point. Be careful so you don't bump into me. Surprised, Minsu asked what he meant. Huayun replied, telling him that what he meant is he'll be swept off into the underworld if he bumps into him. Huayun placed his hand on Minsu's shoulder and told him he needs to get stronger. Minsu was excited as he realized that Huayun had gotten the Eye of God. Though he had heard about it, experiencing it in person was different. Anyway, Huayun asked him where in Paju the factory is. Minsu told him they can head there now. He even got a car for them. Huayun asked when he bought the car. Minsu replied, saying he bought it while Huayun was still in the dungeon. He used the money they received from selling the horn. Minutes later, Huayun was the one driving the car. He was going through his status window and could see that he has over 2,000 bonus points, which is new. So he decided to apply it all to concentration. Now, his concentration is 2,786. The reason why he chose to upgrade his concentration is because of his new skill, Eye of God. Seeing his opponent's stats and skills meant that he can gain insight into their fighting style and weaknesses. He wants to see his opponent's weaknesses with more clarity and precision. He also realized it was hard to fully control his 4,000 strength, so applying them all to concentration was the best choice he could make. He then got a message that he received a skill for his achievement. He has gained the achievement, King of Concentration.